This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2024. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph was robbed at gunpoint of a gold bracelet on Tuesday afternoon as he sat outside Dengue Bar at the corner of Abercrombie and King Streets in his constituency of St. Joseph. A video of Minister Terence Singh telling someone on the phone what happened was posted to social media yesterday evening. In the video, Minister Singh said, quote, "I'm in St. Joseph in my constituency. 5 o'clock hot sun, bright sun outside Dengue Bar opposite the church. With the constituents, 2 fellas walked up to me, put a gun to my head, and robbed me of my bracelet," end quote. At the time of the conversation, there was a marked police SUV near to him with a uniformed officer apparently listening to the conversation. Relief is in sight for payment of property tax. This confirmed by Minister of Finance Colin Imber in the Senate yesterday. Property owners have been facing long lines in the 9 payment centers across the country as the September 30th deadline looms. Responding to a question, Minister Imber said there'll be no additional locations at which people can pay property tax before the 30th of September. However, efforts were being made to expand the capacity of existing locations, he said. With respect to additional payment options, he said it was very complex and the matter made even more complicated by the involvement of the Auditor General. He said the property tax was revenue. Unfortunately, under the Audit and Exchequer Act, revenue must be sent in and there can be no deduction of a service charge, as was customary in some instances with banks. He was also asked, given the resolution being worked on by the ministry through the potentially commercial banks, either in person or online, whether the minister can confirm if the online process and a timeline. The minister said it can be properly recorded as revenue, so it's eminent, and we are working on additional solutions using credit cards or debit cards. Opposition Senator Dr. Tim Gopi Singh is escorted out of the Senate by a marshal yesterday following crosstalk and failure to follow the advice of President of the Senate, Nigel de Freitas. The drama unfolded during the committee stage of the Miscellaneous Provisions Global Forum Bill 2024. At the time, the Minister of Finance, Colin Imber, was seeking to make his point in response to statements made by 2 opposition members earlier. During the discourse, Senate President Nigel de Freitas had to intervene in a bid to restore control, and there was talk crossed during deliberations. 2 teenagers were shot dead by police at a guest house apartment in Tobago. A father of one of those killed is demanding answers. Dead is Hakeem Anderson, 17, of Golden Lane, Tobago, and a former student of Mason Hall Secondary School, Razine Kwashi, 19, also of Golden Lane. Police reports indicate around 6 or 8 p.m. on Monday, a party of officers led by Sergeant Thomas from the intelligence team and Tobago Divisional CID based on Chevron Road went to Roy Island Guest House at Susu Lands, Tobago, based on information received about armed men who were wanted in connection with several shootings on the island. Police indicated on arrival, officers approached the apartment and announced their presence. Police reported both Anderson and Kwashi were armed and pointed their weapons in the direction of officers. Police Sergeant Thomas acted, and Corporal Moses, the police constable O'Neill, believed their lives were in imminent danger and fired in the direction of 2 suspects. Both were hit. The officers took the injured men to the Scarborough General Hospital via a motor vehicle and EHS ambulance. Both men were declared upon arrivals. Investigations are continuing. Their bodies were transferred to the Scarborough mortuary, where autopsies will be performed to determine the cause of death. There are 16 lab-confirmed cases of dengue fever locally. The Ministry of Health confirmed there are 1,407 lab-confirmed cases. As of September 17th, 2024, a total of 1,142 yellow fever notices had been issued to property owners and occupiers, directing them to clean up their surroundings. Of these, 53 were so far ID'd for the consideration and/or institution of legal proceedings for non-compliance. Finally, rapper and hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been detained pending trial after pleading not guilty to 3 federal charges. He was charged in New York with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs denies the accusations, and his defense team have pledged to fight the charges. If found guilty, he faces up to life in prison. The U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, Damon Williams, spoke on this development yesterday afternoon. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming up at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102.
Thursday morning, neighbors, on this, the 18th day of September. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Full casting this morning. You just heard from Dr. Paul Richards. We'll be joined by Wendell Stephen, Richard Ragoobarsingh. We got Shane. We got Ruben in the mix. Of course, my name is Steve Khan. 26 degrees at Piarco International Airport. 25 at Crown Point in Tobago. Yep, Met Office has not updated us yet, so I'll give it to that shortly. But traffic-wise, just traffic from Coover to Sugargonas, Charlieville towards the interchange, you've got some congestion there. Trinidad City and heading to Port of Spain, you've got congestion. You know, that's going to change shortly. All right. Good morning to you, Pablo. What's happening?
Morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, my friend. Hope you had a restful evening.
Well, it's not a good week to be named Terrence.
No. The same thing I said. Terrence making a
Another Terrence is in the news now.
Yeah. Another Terrence is in the news. Speaking of Terrence, let's use Anna's hellos this morning. As usual, when you open your little beady eyes, you think of us. Thank you so much. DJ Ray out in Delaware, Wendy and James, Godzilla, Boy Badesi, Oliver Man Warren, Wayne Bennett, Isasha in London, Gloria Gray, Miss Ingrid in Tucson, Arizona, Rena Woody Jennings, Anthony Tinton, Ontario, Canada, Carol Guevara in Sugargonas, Marcia Rock out in Orlando, Nakisha Pierre, Mo Gaines, Slick Money Grip Business Facade, Salim Abdullah, haven't heard from you in a long time, out in Valley Stream, New York. Brenda Isaac, John Cato, Daniel Knights. Let's see. Josie Richardson, Huda Wells, Evans David. Wow, look at messages. CG out in New York. Christian John Ravello, good morning. DL, Michael Robinson in Yokohama, Japan. Richard P. Knights has said he's from LA. Yeah, La Brea. CPT Singh out in Carney, good morning. I like that. Sankofa, Val, Anthony in Toronto, GNC Auto Security, David Nelson, good morning to you guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We love our messages from you guys. Yeah, Terrence, Paul.
Morning, everyone. How are you all doing this morning?
Not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. But yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that the Honorable Minister of Health got robbed at gunpoint. Sitting outside now, I think
no one is immune from crime.
No, yeah, exactly.
No matter what office you hold, I'm glad he's okay. He wasn't hurt in the incident.
Yeah, that's what
I'm sure having a gun pointed at your head and being robbed is traumatic emotionally and psychologically.
Yeah. I don't know if they could ever get a handle on this.
He seemed quite disheveled to me, actually.
He seems what? Sorry?
He seemed a little disheveled to me.
Won't you be? You have a gun pointed to your head and a little imps that just have to pull a little finger, his index finger, and it end your life right there.
Yeah, precisely.
You know?
Morning, Wendell.
Hi, morning, Paul. Good morning, Steve. Morning, Richard. Morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's Wednesday morning in Trinidad and Tobago. It's Wednesday, September 18th. Just in case you didn't know you were under that rock that a lot of people go under. especially that political rock. Lord Father.
Mm-hmm.
My laptop is driving me crazy with these stupid Google Chrome things that pop up on the side called blog lines. I don't know if you all get that.
Yeah.
You can take off all those things with the press of a button, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I try to do, but it just as you take off one, more comes up. It just
Then you can stop them from coming up on you permanently by going to your settings.
well,
Yeah,
somebody
there's just settings for that.
all right, well,
I'll
somebody
find it and I'll send it for you.
Sorry?
I'll find it and I'll send the instructions.
Yes, please do, because it annoys me
Ruben
every
can
morning.
probably do it for you.
This morning, it's the worst. It's the most.
Yeah, it's when you get up to those sites. And a lot of people are getting hacked. A buddy of mine, very good friend of mine, I got a message from him yesterday. Send $1,000 US to so and so and so. I said, hey. So I called him up. I said, Scooty, you got hacked. He said, yeah, boy, we're working on it right now. I said, okay. I said, and that stomach bug, I know 2 people that have got it. It's horrible. It is horrible. There's something you can take for it, though. When I had that, and I thought it was food poison, and I took it and it worked. It took a while, but it worked. But that's going around again. No. Something you buy in the drugstore is a little vial that you buy and you take it every 8 hours. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, it's so just talk to your pharmacist and they'll give you something for it. You know, just stay hydrated. I know it's going to be tough, but stay hydrated.
Yes, so Minister Ragoobarsingh was robbed yesterday, and this is the video that was circulated on social media after the robbery.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, they have a car? They had a car?
His phone is ringing.
Minister. So I am in St. Joseph in my constituency. 5 o'clock, hot sun, bright sun, sitting outside Nyabingi Bar opposite the church with a constituent. 2 fellas walk up to me, put a gun to my head, and rob me of my bracelet. Just letting you know where crime was reached.
Did not realize that.
No, not the police or anything. You don't have to get. I'm just letting you know.
No, I will hazard a guess. Now that I listen to it even more carefully,
that he was speaking to Minister Hines.
To the minister, one of the ministers of national security.
I suspect that. I suspect that's who he was speaking to also. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know why people find it funny though, or why people make it political about somebody being robbed, about a gun being placed to their head. I don't know if any one of you all have experienced it. I have experienced it twice. It's not a nice feeling. It's very traumatic. You understand? Especially in the first instance where somebody was actually shot when the gun was placed to my head. Right? So I don't know why people feel that this is about a minister, that this is about a government, or this is about the person themselves and how they are. It had nothing to do with that.
Well, I fully agree with you that it should not be politicized. I understand the response of some people because in the posts I've seen, some of them are really disgusting. Let me start by saying that. But there's a general sentiment that, well, this is what citizens face every day and no one is immune.
Well, guess what? My incidents happened more than 20 years ago. And it wasn't a PNM government.
Well,
you
this happened yesterday. So your incident is as traumatic as this. But I think that was the general sentiment many were expressing, that no one is immune from crime.
And that is exactly it. So the people who making fun of it and who politicizing it, I hope to God they never experience it. I really do hope. They never experience it.
The sentiment I saw, the underlying sentiment was that, well, this is what citizens face every day. You understand?
It is.
So you can't argue with that. And I think the example of someone in his position, in his constituency, being a victim of crime, that was the sentiment being expressed, that, well, what is happening is pervasive and everyone is at risk.
And Daniel Knight, I pray that is not what actually we're waiting on. That when politicians themselves are victims, that only then we do something about it. Because I think this horse has bolted. The TTPS, and God forgive me for saying this, are incapable of doing anything about it.
Well, I mean, just
in its current
when you listen to the
let me just put
minister,
it this way. The TTPS, with its current leadership, they are incapable of doing anything about it. That's my personal opinion. Okay? Because I've seen how police officers with their own family.
But they have a car? They had a car?
Minister.
He's in Scotland calling in.
So I am in St. Joseph in my constituency. 5 o'clock, hot sun, bright sun, sitting outside Nyabingi Bar opposite the church with a constituent. 2 fellas walk up to me, put a gun to my head, and rob me of my bracelet. Just letting you know where crime was reached.
Nice mirror too.
No.
where he said they're just letting anywhere crime has reached. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, and that's where the sentiment comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This didn't need to happen. This happens to citizens every day.
Correct is right.
And that's why these people are expressing his sentiment. He's outraged, as he has the right to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he's calling what seems to be one of the ministers of national security, but they don't have the option to call the ministers of national security. But people face that every day. I think that's the sentiment.
That is the sentiment.
And you know something? I understand that, but remember, this is a conversation that Minister Dialsingh is having on his phone with someone. And someone is taping him. I don't know that he would have given. He's sitting in the public, so anybody could put their phone and tape him.
To me, it's irrelevant whether he consented to it or not.
No, I'm not even going there because he doesn't have to consent to it because he's sitting in the public, right? But I'm just saying that I understand why people could be incensed because of what they hear.
Because he is saying 5 o'clock hot sun as if he's surprised that somebody will rob you 5 o'clock hot sun.
Well,
not so.
He found out the hard way.
Well, citizens face that 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 o'clock midday. And that's why people have responded in some ways.
The way that they didn't.
Because he seems surprised by it, but that's the life people live every day.
Yeah.
I don't think he just surprised him. I think he was shocked.
But anybody would have some sort of response by being in shock because it's a traumatic thing to have a gun pointed to your head.
It is very traumatic.
You understand? And he called whoever he called to tell them, I'm just telling you where crime has reached. Well, we knew that a while now. We didn't have to get robbed to know that. You understand?
Yeah.
And that's why some people are responding. And I'm saying again, some people are disgusting with the response.
And they come in on this chat too to come with this disgusting
with the response. But the sentiment,
they come in on this chat
is that the response is that, well, guess what, Minister? This is what we face every day. You understand? And your seeming surprise that it's 5 o'clock hot sun should not, because guess what?
There's no time for crime.
How's home invasions? You understand? So
again, right? And you see me? I don't have to be defending anybody. You understand? But I could have empathy with people, which is what I'm consistent with.
Have I not said? And I think, and I saw some people also chastising people online for seeming to be rejoicing in what happened to Minister Dialsingh, which is disgusting. I keep saying so. Some of the responses are disgusting, but the general sentiment is that this is what citizens face every day.
I don't know that we need it.
And the surprise that, well, they robbed me 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's what happens in this country.
But I don't know that needed to come from Minister Dialsingh.
And that's why people are responding in some ways, because it is not a surprise to many, many, many thousands of citizens who either themselves or their families have faced this kind of scourge.
Well,
look
at what we have had stories lately of people who live their long productive lives and in the 80s being faced with a home invasion and raped and murdered.
Yeah,
You understand?
the lady who was laid to rest this weekend from a Rima who just had eye surgery, worked
Yeah.
her entire life in her home.
Yeah.
And
It
Henry
is a
Ola is
castle,
right.
and she
That
was invaded.
at the point the gun is pointed to the minister, you don't know if they're going to pull that trigger.
True.
You don't know if your life is ending at that point. So you're going to be extremely traumatized. So part of his reaction is part of the expression of that trauma.
Yes.
That 5 o'clock hot and they point a gun to my head, which is a traumatic thing to experience.
Yeah. I don't know if you all got the video. I think I would have sent it of the eyewitness, the person who actually saw what happened.
I didn't get that.
I sent it last night, man. There is a CNC report of someone who said he saw, and he gave a report. I did send. I'm gonna send it again just in case. But it is worth also playing. Yeah, Sam, because this is somebody who said. You see it?
Yeah, I missed that. I probably went to sleep.
Paul, I'll send it for you again because I think it's you, the one who will have
to give me work in the middle of this show. That's work.
I did send it.
I can do the audio.
Yeah.
Please.
All right. I have to get the jack. Hold on.
Yeah.
So he's on the front page of the Express. They are saying robbed. And this Bush health minister outside St. Joseph Bar. And I think what people are saying is ironic that it's in his constituency.
Yes, and he was sitting talking to a constituent on the bench outside Nyabingi. And I think a lot of people who pass St. Joseph know that bench.
Yeah,
know that area.
It's right obliquely opposite the Catholic Church.
Yeah. It's not on the main road though, it's on the kind of side road. It's not on Abercrombie Street then, it's on the side road there.
But yeah, it's at the corner.
No, Wendell, I can play this audio, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it has no obscene in it.
All right, let me just get it here. Just double check in with you. All right.
Yeah.
It's up. Right.
Steve, it stopped. Steve, it stopped.
Steve, the audio stopped.
What did I think?
It's sticking again. No, it's sticking.
It started and then started and stopped.
Oh, it is running good by me. Hold on, let me double check this. Okay.
And you were just sitting there all the time?
Normal, sitting there, normal. Talking in the normal, normal. And he was just speaking there. And I said, I see two fellas come there. And pull the gun from part of the corner there. Plus the gun carried by the corner there. And come up to him to his face.
How long he was there for?
Huh?
How long he was there?
Since evening, he was there for about, when I come back up, it was about 4 o'clock after I see him sitting down there. I went crib. When I come back up, I see him sitting down there.
How long?
I take a chair. Huh?
How long the police take to come?
Well, the police didn't come. Is there some police I see passing by, and I stop them and let them know, and they give the wrongs and they make wrongs to see them fellas and all them things, but they didn't see them. And they come back and ask questions with them with our camera, close it, our camera, they want to find out what is going on.
Do you think they knew who it was?
They know who it is.
They know him.
They must know Mr. Dale Singh. The smallest child.
Is that it, Steve? It cut off again.
No, it cut off again.
Oh, I don't know. We got the gist of it. So, yeah.
Because what the eyewitness is saying is that the guys and them know Mr. Dale Singh.
He said every child in St. Joseph knows, and he's a very, very well-known person.
Well-known.
And on a national level, particularly post-COVID, so it's unlikely that they wouldn't have known who he is.
Yeah.
But they just don't care. As we said yesterday, they rob a bar next to the Aruka police station. They don't care.
Yeah. What the fella said at the end of that video is that they didn't care who it was. What they saw on his hand is what they wanted because they didn't take anything else. You understand?
Well, in the same way, Wendell, that 80-year-old woman, 70-year-old woman, 75-year-old woman are raped and robbed. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, they had a home invasion yesterday. The lady, quote unquote, said
let me help you, Roger Benito. I'll help to ease your frustration every morning.
These are,
Block.
these are some people just changing
Block.
up the names. They
Block.
Yeah, they just changing up the names. I know the style. You kind of get accustomed to some people's style after a while, and you realize they're changing the
I
names.
could fix them with the press of a button.
Yeah.
You could voice your opinion without being disrespectful. Block.
That's all.
Change
And
your
if
name and
you
come
don't
back
like
now.
it, there are 30-something other radio stations you can go to.
Block. You're so incensed, but let me help you. I'll ease your tension this morning.
But you know what? More guns are going to come in. More ammunition is going to come in for the next 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So until then, we might see a reduction.
The other thing that happened, well, a couple of things happened yesterday. This also happened.
St. George's College, September 17th, 24.
No, this
Let me
school
tell you
just
something.
opened,
That is rain.
No,
water
that
or
was
weekend?
rain.
That's rain?
Yeah, it poured.
This is a recently renovated school.
Yeah, it poured for 1 hour, non-stop thunder and lightning in Barataria.
Well, look at that.
Non-stop. Priority bus route. Yeah, look how high that water is by the Police Credit Union on Eastern Main Road. Barataria roundabout by Maritime.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was.
I was in St. James and I was hearing the thunder and so on, and I said, where is rain falling?
Barataria, San Juan, and Diego Martin.
Wow.
Those were the areas that flooded, but that was rain.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could do about that, you know.
It was just too much rain.
No minister could fix that, you know.
Yeah.
How do you fix that? It's astounding to me. When I saw that, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Well, cricket in the Oval today, so we're going to have mental.
Rain. Let me see if the Met Office has updated their weather forecast for you cricket lovers like Wendell, who's heading to the Oval at what time?
I'm definitely headed there. It's at 7 o'clock.
Oh, is it? All right.
Mm-hmm.
The Met Office is saying today is going to be mainly hot and sunny. God, I can't even read this because of these glasses. Despite the isolated shower, there's a low to medium 30 to 60% chance of the heaviest shower thunderstorm developing during the afternoon near hilly and western areas of Trinidad. The new radar system has a really comprehensive weather forecast. I will say, millions well spent.
Those are the Marval Hills that empty inside the Queen's Park Oval. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, once it rains in the hill, is lower down. No, but that was some serious rain, thunder, and lightning galore.
Morning, Ragoobarsingh.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning to our listeners and viewers, wherever you are.
And let's say good morning going out to Brian Charles Lara as he launched his book yesterday, The England Chronicles.
Is this in Bacchanal book?
There's the Bacchanal book, yeah.
Yeah,
there's a book you say Hooper cry.
Yeah.
Where all this flooding was in Barataria?
Yeah.
Not a drop of rain fell in Arima, and in St. James, where I was,
there was hot sun in South.
And that's why we keep telling the Met Office your weather needs to become more localized in the country.
Yeah. Well, they just got a full radar system, millions spent.
You keep saying that, and I don't know.
They commissioned it on Saturday.
We're supposed to rejoice at saying that because really and truly, we're still not getting more localized weather because Port of Spain had rain, Arima didn't have rain. But I had flooding. Central didn't have that kind of rain.
South had blazing sun.
But last week, didn't they launch some new piece of equipment?
That's it. Saturday, the new radar system.
So, Ragoobarsingh, I asked a question from people yesterday, and the Minister of Finance answered. He was on the verge of answering a question about an extended deadline. He did speak to me offline. Which I can't repeat because it was a private conversation. All I can say is
was it different? Was it a different answer than what he gave in the parliament?
If you can't say it publicly, put it in senators.
That's all.
That's all.
Privately.
Okay, let's start from the top. He said that they are working on online measures, including going through commercial banks, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said because it is tax revenue, in some the banks generally usually charge a fee for processing, but they can't because it's tax revenue. You understand?
I understood that part.
All have to be remitted, so they have to have some sort of legal solution for the bank or online to be able to accept it without taking a charge. And so, because all have to go into whatever fund is designated for legally, right?
That actually made sense.
It made sense. So it's not as simple as that. But to me, they would have known that before, quite frankly.
True.
You understand? The lawyer now pass, the exchequer and thing actor now pass. So they would have known that since they was trying to bring property tax back. Not so?
And yes, and stick a pin right there, Paul. And they could have also controlled the way the banks collected it and sent it to them without taking a surcharge.
Whatever they're working on now, they could have worked on 6 months ago.
True.
That's my point. Because the same law that applied 6 months ago when this was coming, applied. Because you know it's 400,000 eligible properties to be processed. Right? And that 9, in a real sense, 9 centers or 10 centers ain't gonna be enough.
Yeah.
That's one. So he said they increased, and that you're now working on increasing capacity is also surprising to me.
Yeah.
So you didn't need more people.
Is it 9 or 16?
People to Tunapuna had to make arrangements in Tunapuna that the cashiers work through lunch hour. Duh. and that what else he said? Oh, the question was asked, but time ran out for urgent question because well, it ran out regarding whether or not an extension was being considered. And well,
I think I heard
the answer was told to me offline.
Well, you could send it to us privately.
No, I can tell you what the answer is, Richard. Yes, we will do the extension, but we don't want to slow down right now the amount of people who are in fact showing up to pay. That's all. That's really what it is.
Watch Wendell.
Because the minute they announce that extension,
watch. That's all I will say.
Yeah, you have that face down part 2.
All they need blessing, you know. All they need Jesus Christ in all their lives.
So I can't repeat what he told
me. But you know, you would have to do the face, so you'd have to do those look up. With you had to look up.
So those are the answers that were provided yesterday. And also Senator Suniti Maharaj asked about the same thing we asked Minister Brian Manning yesterday. Or is it Monday?
Monday.
About whether or not persons who either didn't receive valuations were eligible. He said the Minister Imber said his legal team told him that if you didn't receive it, you are not legally liable. And if you have queries as to the 2 to 3% or whatever other query, and you put in a query, you were not going to be penalized or be liable. Okay. So those are the answers regarding property tax.
Did you all speak about that curious event with Hezbollah fighters' pages exploding?
No.
What?
Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon communicate via pagers. Okay? Because, you know, it's not going up into the cloud or anything like that. So they communicate via pagers, I suppose, to avoid scrutiny from other countries. All the pagers explode at the same time. 2,750 injured, 8 dead.
From pager explosions?
From pager explosions. That came across international news yesterday.
Wow.
Isn't that? Of course, CNN has said they had learned that Israel is behind the attack.
You know, Israel for technology.
But isn't that?
But if they can put something to blow up your pager, they can blow up your phone.
Yeah, is that a very strange and bizarre?
No, science, technology.
Bizarre event for something like that to happen in the scheme of things in world events. I found it so curious. I was like, wait, all these pagers just blow up suddenly and 8 people died?
And
that's not a coincidence, so a happenstance occurrence. That's technology. That they could send something in your pager to blow it up.
Yeah,
that's
so
astounding.
There's always retaliation against Israel for deadly pager explosions across Lebanon. Well, that's a breaking story right now. It's an update. Lebanon's wave of pager explosions is a message to Hezbollah. What we know about the Taiwanese firm caught up in Lebanon's exploding pagers attack.
But who carries on pagers still?
Well, because
Wendell, they don't want to talk on a phone is
they don't want to talk on a phone, Wendell. They communicate because they know it will be scrutinized.
I just being sarcastic here.
No, you're not. You had a moment. Admit you had a moment.
But let me say it, but I did have one because I was messaging a friend of mine who's listening.
Don't say it was me sarcastic. Own it.
Tene Reese and Tene Adlo. Morning Tene. Tene said it had pouring rain by the barracks. It didn't reach down for the Egypts.
The other big story yesterday was Sean Diddy Combs and the revelation of 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube. Sexual lube.
Africa.
And the videos in the free car.
Like he make a trip up Amsterdam or what?
And the videos in the free cars and the suggestion that the American authorities have video of men and women being forced to do sex acts, and he bribed and blackmailed them
and dragged them by the hair
and in some instances drugged them.
Diddy was king freak.
Well, when everybody went to go with them Hampton parties for years because of what they hear happening.
But he's been jailed now, right?
I think
without bail.
Denied bail.
Yeah. Denied bail. $50 million bail denied.
Well, they say he could get lost in jail for life.
Yeah.
Well, clearly that's the intention.
Yeah, it's jail for life. That's the end.
Shall we open the phones, gentlemen?
We shall. Now I got a message. Our phone lines are working. So let's try them. 222-8255. Let's try to see if they're working. I'm not cutting off. Toll free remains the same at 866-525-1099.
Lebanon's Ministry of Health urges citizens to discard pagers.
That was it.
I don't know. They have videos of it exploding. Actually, people shopping in markets, and all of a sudden, bam! Somebody next to them, and people running.
But
that's so bizarre? Kind of technology out there. It's mind-boggling.
It is. We have a call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Paul, I want to thank you for expressing the point of view that from the civilian point of view, from the layman point of view, and articulated it so accurately. For Minister, the other thing to use the phrase, I just want you to know where crime reach. For me, that was the particularly annoying phrase that irks me, because as you rightly said, Paul, crime have been here a very, very, very long time now.
But you need to add, the man was traumatized, and anybody who's traumatized will respond in that way.
I don't know that what he said was so.
I want you to, because if it irritated you, I want you to add, because it's important to add that he just had a gun pointed at his head, and anyone who went through that would be extremely traumatized. So I don't know that you'll be thinking of the politically correct thing to say at that time.
It doesn't take away from, well, all right, that may be the case, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he said it, and it resonated with me that we know crime reached there a long time now. And if you as a minister who's supposed to be in touch with what we're going through, and you now recognize, I just wanted to know.
I don't think he now recognized it. I think he was traumatized and responding in a state of psychological turmoil because he just had a gun pointed at his head. Come on. Grace, give some grace.
Yeah, man.
No,
It's a comment. It's a comment that anybody would make.
Would make under
You are
those
all would make.
circumstances. Let's have some grace.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to. Well, you know, I was just robbed, and I know citizens are going through this every day, so I'm not special. That's what you want them to say.
I find he was very. You said he sound shaken up. I find he was very calm. Similarly to his, I don't know, that's probably his personality, why he made such a good health minister during the pandemic. I find he was very in control, very calm. I admire him for that. You know, to the point I felt, but this man really get robbed without a gun to his head, and he's so.
So how are you supposed to? Is there a particular way you're supposed to respond in those circumstances, Lincoln? That's what you're saying. He should be erratic and fall down on the ground and beat up.
Well, I think maybe his position held him together, that he can't act like that, right? But he was very calm, and I admire him for that. He was really in control of himself and his emotions.
Yeah. Thanks, Lincoln.
All right.
Alrighty. We have a call again.
Yeah.
We have lots of calls. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Was the statement by the minister made because he think crime shouldn't reach him? You know, I would like to know who was on the other end of the line, who he was talking to.
Well, he did say hello, minister. So it was another minister.
Well, that's the impression I get, just like the previous caller, that crime shouldn't reach him or reach them.
Oh, man.
That's the impression I got.
All right.
Richard, Ragoobarsingh.
Yes.
Talk about the exploding
pagers.
The Mossad is one of the most efficient secret service in the world, right? You remember the last he wasn't a diplomat, he was a commander. That was his office was blown up when he died in it was last month. The explosive that killed him was placed in his office 1 month before.
All right,
yes. I was repeating that 1 month before. That's how efficient they are. Morning, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. Lines are full. Good morning.
I remember that, yes.
Good morning to the breakfast crew.
Morning.
I did too.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, Wendell. I remember King Austin saying it very clearly in the song, the price of progress is too high, you know. I remember 10 years ago, a friend of mine bought this vehicle. We in Ontario, his wife is in Newfoundland, he calls her, he said, Amanda, start the vehicle. Boom. She started the vehicle from way in Newfoundland. So yes, I could understand what Richard was saying in regards to the pager attack. You know, technology is doing numbers on us. It has benefits, and as well, it has the negative aspect as well. Again, I enjoy the program, gentlemen, and have a blessed day.
You too. Have a good one. I think too. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Diego Martin.
I just knew people would have put a political spin on a man getting robbed, a gun put at his head. The only thing Lincoln didn't say good for him. Oh, you're serious? But as they say, only when it happened to you, then you just know how it is feel. Lincoln, you better pray. No bandit ever put a gun to your head, because I want to see if you'll be able to come on the radio and be calm and take it so nice. You know how much police officers who are law enforcement officers, when gunmen rob them, how they feel. You see that officer in the bar where that teenager went in there and put that, well, he killed him. But you know how they feel? I have a friend who is a police, a home invasion, but thank God he could have handled himself. Oh God, all your days where we reach to, my God, Jesus, we in a mess.
All right, thank you.
I wish you all the best, and I hope you could recover from this. Crime is for anybody. Them bandits don't care whether you is police, minister, Gary Griffith, anybody. They rest in the matrix on your country, and all you have a good day.
And beauty culture, you are absolutely right with that comment. It clearly man was shaken up. He's accustomed sitting there and hanging out with his constituents.
I did ask him to come on the program this morning. He said no.
He would be in shock. And
Good morning, caller.
let me remind y'all of something that y'all may have forgotten. But I can't forget it because it was a family. It affected my family, our family. Martin Joseph, after serving as the longest security minister in this country, was held up and robbed at his home, in Flagstaff, All you forget that.
Yep, I remember that.
Tied up and robbed, As a
Good
minister
morning.
of national as a recently minister of national security,
I
It
remember
was
that.
a nice experience,
Yes, good morning. I think that sometimes we just miss the ball, and look at the wrong things. Look at what people is trying to make an issue with what the man say after that ordeal. Look at what he's trying to make. I'm not making an issue of what is really happening.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is entire domains that is very, very, very troubling. I am sure that all ministers in government is very, very discomforted when they hear this thing about about crime. And I don't think that it is a thought within the government that well it shouldn't happen to we. And I don't think it is songing, people songing like that is I don't think that is the case. And what is happening here, the police needs a heavier hand. One of the issues here is in the court, these fellas not getting rough-handed treatment. There's a lot of lawyers when they're saying, this is my job and they have to protect her. Yes, okay, but you're living in a country where what is going on and you're getting a few dollars here, but what is happening? The police needs a heavier hand to deal with. People need to stop talking about who was a good boy and who he was this and he was that. And this fellow is saying the fellas know the minister. I wouldn't know that, I wouldn't know that they were knowing, but you see, it's their business. It is not that they have that kind of culture thinking about who is who, and they don't have no respect, no nothing. The police needs a heavier hand with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to stop complaining when the police operate and deal with these fellas. Otherwise, this thing, I mean, a loss for words here, This thing is very troubling.
It is.
Thank you, caller.
All you forget to, I don't know why it is remembered, all you forget to, Ghassan Youssef, under the People's Partnership government, was mayor of Arima. Walking through Arima, they rob him of the chain.
Yeah, they grab the chain and run with it.
All you forget that too.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into the headlines of our newspapers. It is 12 minutes before the hour at 7 o'clock. Major news at the top of the hour.
No, I don't have papers this morning, Paul.
All right, let's start with the Express. It's
Retirement,
the 18th of September.
I usually have it but this morning I don't.
Okay.
We start with the Express. Cops kill 2 teens in Tobago. The report is that they were in an apartment and they pointed weapons at police. Police opened fire and they were both killed. Relief for owners. No notice received, no penalties from the finance minister in the Senate yesterday. The Alsing robbed at gunpoint. More St. George's woes. Gun to head and robbed. Just letting you know where crime has reached. Minister of Health Terence De Alsing. Interim CEO of Tobago Tourism Agency exits immediately. Cops kill 2 gunmen in Tobago. They happen to be 2 teenagers, one 17, one 19, by the way. Cutlass man takes girlfriend to look for his other girlfriend. Cops make arrest. And no masks, no fear. Gunmen rob pharmacy in Roselac. Let's move to the Guardian now. Wendell, think of a question, please.
Okay.
Weeks after $10 million renovation, St. George's College floods out. Fresh concerns about teenage pregnancies. Terrence robbed at gunpoint in St. Joseph constituency. Industrial Court President says crime hurting TNT workforce. Scotland wants earlier to improve. IMBA, online property tax payment system, a very complex matter. Monilal, how much was Stress Trail project contractor paid? Chagwanas West MP accuses Kamla of benching dissidents. And Duke and Saunders call for PSA president to step down. Let's move now to the Newsday for today. Imber rejects UNC claims that minister can access taxpayers' records. Health minister robbed at gunpoint in his constituency. Imber, new ways to pay property tax in the works. Dengue cases increased by 20 to 1,407. Arima Council launches Peace is Power initiative, and St. George's College in Barataria floods. So these are trending stories in your three major dailies for today, Wednesday, the 18th of September, 2024.
I sent one to you, right?
Okay.
Okie dokie. All right. Let's see if we can get the results of our morning poll from yesterday. All right.
Bad question.
Give me a little problem here, but let me see if I get it. Right. So we asked you yesterday, should the Minister of Finance grant an extension for payments of property tax? That was our poll. 86% said yes. All right, let's get into this morning's poll. Oh, I have to send the link. Let's see. Oops. Right, okay. Round here. Right, okay.
You didn't win no competition for typing words per minute.
I actually
I have people to do that for me.
Ooh.
I don't usually type for myself, so.
Yes, staff for that, Richie.
There's staff for that, sir. Let's not take away people's jobs.
You know, I did advanced typing, and it connotes and passed it with all A's.
All right, so this morning's poll. Do you expect a greater effort at crime fighting after the gunpoint robbery of Minister of Health Terence Dialsing? Do you expect a greater effort at crime fighting? Yes or no?
Wendell's poll wasn't originally that long. I lengthened it.
Yeah, you lengthened it. Normal thing. They like to tug.
I find it a little short.
Do you expect a greater effort at crime fighting after the gunpoint robbery of Minister Terence Dialsing? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People on the streaming platforms, use the messaging portals there. People who are watching us on M&E TV and others listening to us on streaming devices or smart devices, you can WhatsApp us at 868-318-1021. You have all of the numbers. Your voting may proceed.
By the way, I got 2 T-shirts for you guys. I hope they fit. From Jamaica.
All right. Thank you, Wendell. Appreciate that.
You said
they
2,
look,
3 of us.
Nice.
Yes,
they look nicer than my own too. So if they could, but because 3 of you all are so much bigger than me, I can't keep them.
I wear smaller.
I'm not saying a word there.
That is prophylactic size.
You know,
Richard?
I heard him. Extend some grease, sir. Extend some grease.
All right.
I didn't think you could speak. You didn't get away with it, you know.
All right, so let's get some votes here. CJ New York says no. John Cato says no. Beauty Culture says no. Michael Robinson in Japan.
You know, prophylactic is just a covering, right? It could go. It's a T-shirt. I meant.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Don't try to pull yourself out.
You know, it's just a covering, right?
No.
Don't try to pull yourself out.
No.
Hector says no. Oscar Daniel says no. Chris J says no. Anthony from Toronto says yes. Black Pearl, morning Black Pearl says no. Eddie out in Staten Island, New York says no. Cascade St. Anne says no. Val says no. Okay, Frank says, wish my cousin St. Vincent, Bayless, Frederick, happy 100th birthday. All right. So, cousin in St. Vincent, Bayless, Frederick, happy birthday to you. 100 years old. Wow. Okay.
And good morning to the more than almost 40,000 new viewers we have.
Imagine that, eh?
Yeah, boy.
Christine from St. James, thank you so much. That is exactly it. I can't pronounce it. Enterogema, whatever it is. That stomach bug. It works really well. Let's see. Any more votes coming in? Let's go. So we did. Oscar Daniel Garcelia says no. Kadeem Khan Jr. says no. Gloria Gray says no. Cheryl Henry. Okay. Frank Edwards. Hey, Frank. Morning. Says no. Gloria Gray says no. Julia S. Batiste. Beauty culture, you would not believe. Julia S. Batiste says no. Carol Guevara says no. What says you, caller?
Good morning,
Sometimes I
gentlemen.
wonder, yes.
No.
Sandy Grande says no. Not Kansas City, but Sandy Grande. Thank you.
He's back home.
He's back home. Anthony Tinto out in Ontario, Canada says no. Do you expect a greater effort at crime fighting after the gunpoint robbery of the Minister of Health, Terence Dialsing, which happened yesterday at 5 p.m.? Let's see. We got Yvette saying no. Kenny out in Harlem says no. 222-8255. Apparently our lines are working once again. Was out of our control, I'll tell you that. And of course, toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. 222 talk.
I'm willing to bet, do it.
Desmond says no. Slick Money Grip says no.
I'm willing to bet
vote.
that word spread about that, and people find out who those guys are, and something is going to happen. I don't know if they'll be arrested or whatever. You want to bet?
Were they wearing masks?
I'm not
Apparently
sure.
not.
The eyewitness didn't say.
Yeah.
But there are cameras also around there, and at Nayabingi shop, I'm sure, has cameras.
Yeah. Bobby, morning, Bobby says no. He says armed cops deliver pre-action letter. Oh.
I'm going to say good morning to Mrs. R.
Okay.
I don't know if she's on the stream yet, but
yeah, she is. Yeah. Morning, Lorna. Indy, Carly says no. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I would like to know which pawn shop they're going to pawn that bracelet this morning.
No, they're not going to our shop. They want to sell that for $200.
Oh my God.
Yeah, on the street.
And I would like to know how it is that the minister don't have a security around him. You know.
Not all of them do it. As a matter of fact, most times I see Minister Dialsing, he's driving himself.
Yeah.
And he generally walks around, I wonder if I should say that now, around Abercrombie Street. He's very, very casual and approachable generally. See, he's not somebody who generally walks around with security.
Yeah.
It's very, heartbreaking, but
yeah. Thank you.
Everybody, you all have a blessed day.
All righty.
If I'm not mistaken, it's only the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and the Attorney General, I think, are afforded
Minister of Finance too.
No, Minister of Finance, no.
No.
Remember,
Henry says no.
Stuart Young, because of the positions he's held, and the fact that he acts as Prime Minister now too, he has a detail. I don't know if Keith Scotland has one because of his position now.
Yeah,
but that's it. No, most of the other people, you see them alone. Penelope Beckles, Dr. Amy Brown, I see them alone a lot of the times.
Mrs. R says, good morning, Steve Darling. No.
It's not Steve Darling that said it. Good morning, was me.
Or you just jealous? You're just jealous. Of course, AVU should be walking in any second now with major news.
What I do know, and I hope that they put in place, because we have an election coming soon, and this election is not going to be nice. This election season is not going to be nice.
No, it's not going to be nice. I see that. Every election season is not going to be nice.
No, but this one I think will be worse because of the sentiment you're seeing being expressed. People are hating on people now, man. Oh, goodness, Lord. It's and they're almost wishing people bad.
Yeah.
Just to teach you a lesson or to,
All right. Let's see if we have more votes before we go into our major news. Rena Boodoo Jennings says no. All right. Let's get into our 7 o'clock major news. Oh, isn't she peachy? Evie Hill Bab is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph robbed at gunpoint of a gold bracelet. Relief in sight in terms of payment arrangements for payers of property tax. Dr. Tim Gopisingh escorted out of the Senate by a marshal during committee's state of a bill. 2 teenagers shot dead by police at a guest house apartment in Tobago, and Sean Diddy Combs detained as he awaits trial over sex trafficking charges. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Afril Sinjil-Bab. Good morning. Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Terence Singh, has been robbed at gunpoint of a gold bracelet. The incident occurred on Tuesday afternoon as he sat outside the Nyabingi bar at the corner of Abercrombie and King Streets in his constituency of St. Joseph. A video of him telling someone what happened was posted to social media yesterday evening and has been making the rounds on social media. He said in the video, quote, "I am in St. Joseph in my constituency. 5 o'clock, hot sun, bright sun, sitting outside Nyabingi bar opposite the church, St. Joseph RC, with a constituent. 2 fellas walk up to me, put a gun to my head and robbed me of my bracelet," end quote. At the time of the conversation, there was a marked police SUV near to him with a uniformed police officer apparently listening to the conversation. Investigations are continuing. Relief is in sight in terms of payment arrangements for payers of property tax. This was confirmed by Minister of Finance Com Imbert in the Senate yesterday. Property owners have been facing long lines at the 9 payment centers across the country as the September 30th deadline looms. Responding to a question from Independent Senator Paul Richards on this issue, Imbert said there would be no additional locations at which people could pay property taxes before September 30th. However, efforts were being made to expand the capacity of existing locations, he said. With respect to additional payment options, he said it was a very complex matter, made even more complicated by the situation involving the Auditor General. The minister added it would be properly recorded as revenue. He also said the ministry was working on additional solutions using credit cards and debit cards. Meanwhile, the minister said should the Board of Inland Revenue be unable to deliver a tax assessment notice to a taxpayer, then the person is not at fault and will not be subject to any penalties and interests relating to property tax payment. He was responding to a question posed by Independent Senator Suniti Maharaj.
The fault of the taxpayer I'm talking about here is that if the Board of Inland Revenue has been unable to deliver a tax assessment notice to the taxpayer, then the taxpayer is not at fault. You understand? So you have not received a tax assessment notice from the Board of Inland Revenue. The legal opinion is that you are not at fault and you will not be subject to any penalties and interest. You have to receive it first.
Opposition Senator Dr. Tim Gopisingh was escorted out of the Senate by a marshal on Tuesday following crosstalk and failure to follow advice of the Senate President. The drama unfolded during the committee stage of the Miscellaneous Provisions Global Forum Bill 2024. At the time, Finance Minister Colm Imbert was seeking to make his point in response to statements made earlier by 2 opposition members. However, during the discourse, Senate President Nigel de Freitas had to intervene in a bid to restore control as there was crosstalk during the deliberations.
When he was talking.
Members.
I didn't say a word.
Okay, Minister and Senator Gopisingh. This is Senator Gopisingh. I did not call on you to speak. Senator Gopi Singh, Senator Gopi Singh, Senator Gopi Singh, I have not acknowledged you to speak. Silence, Senator Gopi Singh. Okay, Senator Gopi Singh, you left before, leave again. Senator Gopi Singh, please exit this chamber now. Senator Gopi Singh, I have asked you to leave. Marshal, please remove the senator. Marshal, please remove the senator.
Two teenagers were shot dead by police at a guest house apartment in Tobago, and the father of one of those killed is demanding answers. Dead is 17-year-old Hakeem Anderson of Golden Lane, Tobago, and a former student of Mason Hall Secondary, and 19-year-old Razine Kwashi, also of Golden Lane. Police reports indicate that at around 6:08 p.m. on Monday, a party of officers led by Sergeant Thomas, officers from the intelligence team and Tobago Divisional CID based at the Chauvin Road Police Station, went to Roy's Island guest house at Susulands, Tobago, based on information received about armed men who were wanted in connection with several shootings on the island. Police said that on arrival there, the officers approached the apartment and announced their presence. Police reported both Anderson and Kwashi were armed and pointed their weapons in the direction of the officers. Police said Sergeant Thomas, Acting Corporal Moses, and Police Constable O'Neill believed their lives were in imminent danger and fired in the direction of the two suspects, who were both hit. The officers took the injured men to the Scarborough General Hospital via a motor vehicle and EHS ambulance. Both men were declared dead on arrival. The bodies were then transferred to the Scarborough mortuary, where an autopsy will determine the cause of their deaths. Police said the officers later found and seized one AR-15 rifle with 29 rounds of 5.56 millimeter ammunition and a revolver with 4 rounds of .38 ammunition. Barataria Sanwan Member of Parliament Saddam Hussein describes the flooding situation at the St. George's College as an educational disaster. MP Hossain is calling on the Minister of Education, Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly, to account for the $10 million spent on the school's refurbishment. The Barataria Sanwan MP is insisting government bring a speedy resolution to this situation, which will no doubt impede the smooth dispensation of education to the students of St. George's College. There are 16 laboratory-confirmed deaths from dengue fever locally. The Health Ministry confirmed there are 1,407 laboratory-confirmed cases of dengue fever. As at September 17, 2024, a total of 1,142 yellow fever notices have been issued to property owners or occupiers, directing them to clean up their surroundings. Of this, 53 property owners or occupiers have thus far been identified for the consideration or institution of legal proceedings for non-compliance. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Rapper and hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been detained pending trial after pleading not guilty to 3 federal charges. He was charged in New York with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs denies the accusations, and his defense team have pledged to fight the charges. If found guilty, he faces up to life in prison. The U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, spoke of the development.
My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
Finally, here is weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, hot and sunny conditions are expected despite a few showers. There is a low to medium chance of a few afternoon heavy showers or thunderstorms favoring, but not confirmed, to hilly and western areas. Nighttime will be fair. Gusty winds and street or flash flooding may occur near heavy showers or thunderstorms. Expect a temperature high of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 33 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, the temperature at Piarco is 27 degrees Celsius. It is 26 degrees Celsius at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines at 7 o'clock, Minister of Health and Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Terence Deyalsingh, robbed at gunpoint of a gold bracelet. Relief in sight in terms of payment arrangements for payers of property tax. Dr. Tim Gopi Singh is escorted out of the Senate. 2 teenagers shot by police at a guest house apartment in Tobago, and Diddy Combs detained as he awaits trial over sex trafficking charges. I'm Avril Sindhilbab. That was News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon and an update coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You could join her again come 8 o'clock for our news brief. Traffic-wise, heavy. That's all I will say. I got a car accident for you. It's on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway. It is eastbound, and it is, what road is that? By Demerara Road. All right. So take note of that. Apart from that, where you think you're going to get traffic, you will get traffic. It's quite dusty by the Maritime Roundabout because of the flooding yesterday. All right. So put up a glass. Yeah.
You know, they drive crazy around that area of Demerara Road. They drive really crazy on that stretch there.
Oh, okay. I have one vote for you again. Dan Raj says no. And let's see if we have any more. Let's see. Esther Adams says no. We did read about it. Jennings. That's it. That's it.
I'm surprised though, gentlemen, that nobody has raised the specter of that particular seat, because St. Joseph is the most marginal of all the marginal seats, right? It was won by the lowest margin, right? I'm surprised nobody has raised the specter of the combatants or that particular area in terms of what happened yesterday. I'm surprised. But Frank Edwards, we are not giving out the locations of ministers. MPs are required to be in the area. They go, a lot of them are in the area walking about and so on, and chatting with people and things. I see images they shared on social media all the time of them in the area. We don't have to give it out. They're there. That's what they're there for. You understand? I don't know that, I mean, everybody has to be concerned about their personal security. But I mean, most MPs, most people would walk about with a group. You understand? Some, like in the case of Minister Dalsing, clearly was by himself. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we voted them into office, you know, all of them. All 41 of them.
All right, so let me give the results of the poll this morning. Of course, the poll this morning is, do you expect a greater effort at crime fighting after the gunpoint robbery of Minister Terence Dalsing? We had 32 people voting on the poll during the allotted time. Of the 32 people, 31 of you said no, you do not expect a greater effort at crime fighting. And one person said, yes, I do. So the one person was like the cheese standing alone.
But that is not an indictment on the TTPS at the end of the day.
Well, I saw an interview sometime, was it last week, with Junior, what is this? What's his name? Junior Benjamin. Where he said something curious, like, I'm sure you all must have discussed it, you know.
We did. That they have a handle on crime?
That.
Mm-hmm.
And citizens need not worry or something like that.
He gets slammed for that, so.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Anti-bad mind. I like that hat. I want to get one like that.
Anti-bad mind. Christmas list. Christopher Hughes, good morning and welcome once again to the Paul Breakfast Show. Of course, you've seen the guys, Paul, Wendell, Richard. I'm the rose among the thorns.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. Hughes. How are you this morning?
So far, so good.
Where are you this morning?
I went to Tobago for 48 hours, but now I'm back in Trinidad.
Oh, you're still in the Republic?
Yes.
Oh.
I thought
we just wanted to get an update.
I thought you went to Toronto.
We wanted to get an update on what happened since we last spoke last week. I know you had a court case the day following, and there was an issue with your passport being not in your possession.
Correct.
So
So
can you
the
give us an
following,
update?
the following day, I was able to get my passport back. They scheduled. The judge actually wanted to make it so that for the next 365 days, I can remain virtual during the short court appearances, but due to some small details, she said she can only do the next date. So as of January 14th, which is my next hearing regarding the sedition charge, I'm allowed to appear virtually. Then I have to reapply for high court again to request that all of my future hearings are done virtually. I guess
high court,
that's where
that
we
high,
sit.
do you have to be in person for that high court hearing, or will
No,
that be?
I can do that virtually. It's just a matter of going through the application process.
And what's the status of your passport?
So everything's fine as of yesterday. So I'm able to travel, and I will be traveling tomorrow.
Are there conditions apart from the bail issue? Any other issues?
No, and I have no. I haven't had any bail conditions on this whole trip. The only bail condition was that I personally lodge my passport with the high court. That's my only condition.
And it's back in your possession.
Correct, and that condition will remain. So eventually, when I have to come back, I'll have to go through the process once again.
What about the return of your equipment?
No, that's the reason why I didn't just jump on my first flight. I'm fighting to get equipment back. I don't have the means to be spending $6,000 to $10,000 again and again and again. So my lawyers thought, let's give them 2 days to see if they'll be able to provide equipment back.
And I'm presuming you requested to have your equipment back.
Quite a few times.
Yeah. Is there any progress with regard to that?
No, it's, again, I think it's just the thorn in the side effect. You know, cameras themselves, GoPro cameras, they have no internal memory. There's no hidden storage. You don't even have the capability of storing anything without a memory card. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you want the files, keep the memory cards, right?
But that's what I was going to ask. I mean, all the DLSR or GoPro cameras now, they have no internal memory. So the evidence that they may be seeking, once you take for processing purposes, you need to take the model, the serial number of the equipment, because all that's part of what I guess they would need for whatever case they're preparing. But the actual evidence that they may be seeking, and take a picture of the device.
But I mean, they've already dropped
the SD card.
The charge has been dropped, right? So what evidence are they seeking?
Which charge? The sedition charge has been dropped?
Money laundering.
Remember, the seizing of this equipment was when he came back for the case, Paul.
Right. So it's been twice, and I understand the sedition charges. First of all, I don't understand. It's been 3 months now. They've had plenty of time to make copies of whatever was required from them. But I mean, regarding this newer money laundering charge, they took, again, almost $10,000 in equipment. That charge was dropped, but no, I haven't regained access to all the items that they've taken.
So it's two sets of equipment they took from you?
Yes.
The first one with the sedition charge, and then the second one with the money laundering charge. But if the money laundering charge has been dropped, what have they told you regarding the equipment related to that?
Yeah, I get different answers from different people. But the bottom line is I don't have access to the equipment. Some of them, 2 Fridays ago, I heard, yes, I'll get it Friday. Then I heard Monday, then possibly Tuesday. Then we have no idea, Mr. Hughes. And now nobody will give me a straightforward answer.
Who is the person? Who are the people who are communicating this to you, Mr. Hughes?
The detectives that were the ones interrogating me. Secondly, I went to the physical location, the anti-gang unit, to see if that would help. But I mean, the response over and over again is no. So we've put in a written demand, more than one, but we did one with more urgency, saying I'm about to leave the country for at least the next year. I would appreciate my stuff back. But as of right now, there's been no response.
And what of the deportation issue, the undesirable person issue? What can you give us a status update on that? Are you still on the books for deportation or any of these issues?
No. So the exact terminology I don't recall, but I mean there's sort of like ground rules. The deportation was off the table, but every 10 days that I remain in the country, and I'm able to remain up to whatever the given, I think it's 6 months on my passport.
I'm allowed to stay. So as long as I do stay, I would have to check in every 10 days. It's not a court hearing or anything like that. It's just about going to the immigration office and checking in.
Wow. So you are able to leave. Last time we spoke, you said you do not want to be here. So you're going to be out of here?
Yes.
Is it? Can you give us a time, a date? Just for
tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I'm leaving.
Tomorrow.
So whether or not you get your equipment, you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to get back to my family.
Has there been any communication from the Canadian embassy?
No, not with me directly. No. Well, again, since our last call, no. Like since I've spoken to you gentlemen last, no.
Mm-hmm. So your next case, your next court appearance on the sedition charge is January next year.
That's correct. Yes.
Which you can appear virtually on.
Yes, it's just like hopefully it's a collecting of disclosure evidence against me. So I mean those are very brief hearings, but that would be the next one, January 14th.
And you have an attorney representing you in that particular matter?
As of right this second, I don't. I've been the last two appearances. I've appeared myself.
Oh, okay.
So you have any attorneys representing you? Because there's nothing else that you need attorneys for.
Here's the very human response. I've had many senior counsels raise their hand and say they want to help me. I am not confident, and this is no disrespect to anybody in particular, as to what their motives are. So before I decide on, I don't want to keep hiring and firing lawyers. It's not helpful for anyone. As of this time, there's no need for a lawyer. Actually, I'm learning a lot, and I'm having. It's almost like I'm back in school. I'm learning about the process, and I'm enjoying to learn about the process. Now, if this ever goes to trial, I am confident I will have a lawyer that's going to be assisting me in my defense. Yes, but right now, no.
Yeah. Are you suspicious then, because of what you just said, that there are a lot of senior counsels raising their hand to represent you? Are you apprehensive because you may feel that they might want to make a political issue out of it? Is that the reason why you're apprehensive?
That could be something to do with it, but more so it's.
Are they doing it pro bono or no?
Yes, the people that have offered pro bono, but it's almost like the used car salesman approach. It's like, let me show you this beautiful shiny car, but once you buy it, a wheel's falling off, and it doesn't sound quite as sweet as it did when you first looked at it.
I love that, Anna.
This is going to take some time, right? And I know that I'm not in a rush. And again, like I don't want to say I'm enjoying it, like I'm enjoying it, but I like to learn, and I'm learning the whole process. And I still have a team of very smart individuals around me, not only in this country. So, I mean, we brainstorm every day or two. So it's not like I'm going into the conversations blind. I do have help, but I have no legal counsel at the moment for the sedition charge.
Have you done any recording since being?
Yes. It's become difficult because, Trinidad is not like Toronto. I can't just go to the corner store and find the equipment that I'm accustomed to. I think I've uploaded 2 or 3 videos, and I've filmed a couple more. It's just a matter of getting them up.
Very interesting. Have you been able? Is there an option for you to use an attorney that may not be from Trinidad and Tobago, but who has the ability to practice here from outside of this jurisdiction?
Yeah, I don't know the law pertaining to that, but I mean, I've had people volunteer from around the Caribbean and in Canada. Which I think is great. Again, I just need to look into somebody more. I got to find out more as to what their motive is. If their motive is genuinely to help and fight for my human rights, then of course I would be stupid not to take somebody on. But if their agenda is to push some sort of political movement or to gain popularity for themselves, then I don't look at their pro bono work as being a gift to me. It's more like a gift to themselves. So it's not my lack of appreciation. It's just I need to put more thought into it before I make that decision.
What prompted this mindset? Because you repeated that now. We asked about it. I mean, you used the analogy of a used car salesman earlier on.
Yeah.
Now you seem to be questioning the motives of people volunteering their services to you.
Yeah. I think like through CJ Williams being my first, I guess, official lawyer while detained, and I love the gentleman. He's the kindest, smartest man in the world. To the Canadian Embassy recommending that I get rid of him because he's not senior. So being on record as firing my lawyer before my first appearance, and then moving on to Pamela Elder and her junior counsel, and then firing them due to, let's say, discrepancies in pricing. I don't want to continue on with that. I don't think it looks good. So just more thought has to, before I sign my name to a lawyer, I want to make sure there's more thought put into it.
Are there attorneys trying to help you get back your equipment? Are there attorneys involved in that?
Well, I've been doing it myself. There have been lawyers that have tried to help me as well. Me getting permission to leave with immigration, it's a document that I filed myself to the chief of immigration, and I got accepted myself. So I'm pretty confident. I'm not the smartest man, but I have smart people around me, and with a little bit of pointing and direction, I'm pretty confident with the equipment. I'm doing the same process that a lawyer would do. I just think I'm doing it a little quicker.
Mr. Hughes, did you just say?
We send a pre-action protocol letter to the
yes.
to the state.
Yeah. Mr. Hughes, did you just say that the Canadian Embassy advised you to get rid of Christian Williams because he was not senior enough?
Yes.
How did that take place? How did that come about?
Well, just a simple recommendation that this, prior to being charged for sedition, I don't even know what the word meant. I've never heard it. I never used it before. Didn't realize, the consequences of being found guilty of sedition. And it all happened so fast. So after 7 days or 6.5 days in jail, when I got my first opportunity at bail, forgive me, the dog's in the back, it came to me about 5 minutes before court where they just simply said, like, we suggest a senior lawyer based on, the time that you're facing in jail. And I took
is it that you would have reached out to the Canadian Embassy then, or they intervened on their own?
Well, intervene sounds like they're disruptive. No, they were, I don't want to say they're a participant, but they were an observer. They're physically there every day. Almost every day I was in holding. Okay. So they would pass by and bring treats and talk and just get me out of the cell, which was very helpful when you're locked in a cell 24 hours a day. Getting out for 30 minutes, I'm grateful, but I mean, nothing more than that.
All right. So Christian has not been a part of the process since?
No, he's been a friend and a support. I'm at his house right now. I can't speak more highly about the man, but no, he has not been part of the process.
What's next with Mr. Hughes?
I have a team of people that are participating. So we're researching. We're trying to find everything we can find in order to get my case thrown out before trial. Even very recently, 2 days ago, we found that only a year ago in the Caribbean, there was a public health approach to crime that included the current prime minister. He was a participant, and there's so many articles about it online where they've come up with a structured approach. It was a 4-step approach. And step 1 is to actually go into these communities with almost like a survey and ask individuals, what is it going to take to bring peace to the community? And if you read the articles on it, they say, be prepared that you're not going to like some of the answers from these people in the community, but the first step in solving any problem involving crime has to be on the ground level. Okay, and this is something very big all across the Caribbean, but Trinidad and Tobago was also a participant. So I mean, just showing that the government has put money into what so-and-so could call a professionals. Who is it? University students? Who is it? Volunteers or paid workers to walk into communities and ask, how can we bring peace to the community? That is like award-winning ideas where people get trophies and stuff. But if I go through a community and I say, how do we bring peace to the community? No doubt there's going to be some answers that are not liked. I'm not responsible for the people answering, but it just shows that I have the same mindset. The first step in solving the crime problem is asking the people in the community that are most affected or the ones actually doing the crime. So this is something we just found only a year ago. It's happened. It's all over. You can search it. And they're rewarded. And my reward is a sedition So my group of people are nonstop on the ball to ensure that I get a fair trial and this case is thrown out as soon as possible so I can continue on with my life.
Now, last time we interviewed you, Mr. Hughes, you would have held up the newspaper and showed the front page concerning a crime that was committed. Today, on today's front page, there was a crime committed yesterday against a sitting government minister.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what happened yesterday?
Yeah, look, I'm never gonna make fun of a crime. Crime is disgusting. It has to be gone. But why does it take a minister to get robbed for him to show how passionate he is about crime? I've seen his social media posts. Where was that passion? Where was that cry for help over the last 12 months or therefore before? Why is it as humans we only care when we are affected, right? So am I sorry the man got robbed? Of course. Nobody wants to get robbed. Nobody wants that feeling of their hard-earned possessions taken away. Could have been something sentimental to him. But maybe that is sort of the kick in the backside that he required to realize like crime is a problem. Everyday folks have to deal with it every day. You know, I met an older man walking down the street a couple days ago. I didn't have a camera. He had 3 golf balls and he like engineered this thing with shoestrings where the golf ball sort of dangled from the shoestrings. He had a screw through the golf ball, and I knew what it was right away. I'm like, this is some sort of self-defense. The man looked about 80 years old. I said, please sit down with me. I'll buy you a beer. Tell me what's going on. He fears walking down the street. So he's created this thing that it's almost like, I don't know if you know what brass knuckles are. It's like where the balls are on this side and you can sort of swing it. And although my grandparents have passed away, I looked at this man as like this elderly man that feels he's not even safe walking down the street during the daytime without carrying a weapon. I asked him, has anything happened to you? He said, no, I use this as a deterrent so people know that at least I'm going to fight. And is there anything really sadder than this? So hopefully the minister opens his eyes and realizes there is a problem, and hopefully something is done about it. Not just.
So you mentioned that the minister would have responded, and you think that it's only when it happened to him,
of course,
that he made a statement. The minister has made statements because he's a member of Parliament for St. Joseph on many occasions that I've heard about crime and about situations in the constituency. So that's not an accurate statement.
So I'm saying he's a lot more passionate now. I've watched his social media. He's posted a lot of very personal messages because the crime was committed against him. So he's passionate about it.
You mean since then?
Are you saying he wasn't passionate before?
I don't know the man. I don't know enough about him. But there is no doubt the attention is being brought for one reason. He's the minister. I've never heard of the minister before yesterday. It's front page news, you're saying. Everybody's talking about it, include the household that I'm in, right?
But that doesn't mean he hasn't made statements on crime before, though.
No, I'm not. I'm saying he's more passionate now because it's him affected. I don't know enough about his resume.
It's a personal situation. Have you ever been in contact since you're here with any minister, government official besides your incursion with the criminal justice system?
No.
So no minister has ever spoken to you?
No.
What do you think you've accomplished since landing in Trinidad and Tobago?
Like me, myself, personally?
Yeah.
Very little. I mean, if you look at the whole outlook of what's going on, very little. Eventually, very soon, people will forget about me. I didn't come in with an agenda to accomplish anything. I just film what I see. I document what I see. It's up to smarter people to figure out what to do with that. But it's happened to me before where smarter people have taken my content and done something with it and made a positive impact on communities, whether it be homelessness or drugs or crime.
So don't you think you've been able to, at some level, because this is what some people are saying, that you were able to do what some state machinery had not been able to do, and go into some communities where and interview young men who have admitted they're involved in crime?
Yes.
Isn't that shining some sort of light on the situation in the country that can be considered productive at some level?
I don't know. I'm not are the numbers going down, or the crime or the murders going down? No. So I mean, it depends on how we're going to gauge what productive is. Right? We'll never be able to know the exact impact of one video.
Well, let's ask you a poll question this morning then, because we asked this morning, do you think that there'll be a greater effort in crime fighting due to the robbery of Minister Terence Yalsing? What are your thoughts?
I think police force will come out with a vengeance for a couple days just to show that there's an interest in the topic. And by this time next week, everything will be forgotten.
So true. So true.
No different than what happened with me. You know, when I was arrested for sedition, very well planned out, plotted. They went to the areas that I went. Mind you, before I went there with my camera, there's cameras everywhere. There's surveillance cameras in every one of these neighborhoods. They know who has guns. They can follow social media. I was not the first one to show guns in Trinidad. Right? I'm the first outsider, maybe, like as an individual that came. Vice did a documentary where there was 10 million plus views, but they're looked at as a media house. I'm not. I'm looked at it as I'm a crazy YouTuber, right? National Geographic, you know, that wonderful yellow magazine that used to be all about Mother Nature. I don't know if you know, one of their best produced programs are all about gangs, the worst gangs around the world. They get awards for this type of stuff. You see, but the government, what they did is they went into the neighborhoods to make it look bad for me so that people would not talk to me moving forward. But they actually did quite the opposite, because people respect me in any community, and my sort of, I can go anywhere. I still
What do
can
you mean by that? The government went into the neighborhoods to make it look bad?
Well, like Movant, Second Caledonia, there was guns being shown in the video. So the next day, the title or the topic of the newspaper was 24 arrested because they were seen on video with guns. If you watch my video about Movant and Second Caledonia, I actually peer up with my camera, and there's cameras everywhere. So if those cameras are functioning cameras, they were well aware of the situation in Second Caledonia. The number of murders and shootings, I saw them this week, there was shootings. They didn't need me to acknowledge there's a problem there, but they utilized my platform to make me look bad and say, okay, now we're targeting them immediately, and we make sure that the media is going to cover it. So no different now. They need to save face, and they need to go in there and stand up for the minister, as though they should. But we don't want them to forget about the crime problem when this small problem is solved, right? That's not helping anyone.
All right. Thank you for being with us this morning. We appreciate the update.
No problem.
And safe travels back home tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, are you at all willing to take some calls, Mr. Hughes?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So we can do that. 222-8255. That's 222-8255. North Americans, US and Canada, 866-525-1099. All right. That's our numbers directly into our studio.
Yeah. Have you done an interview thus far where you made yourself available to calls or from the public?
You know, I've been on the media quite a bit in my 3 years of YouTube. So yes,
okay.
I'm sure I have. Yes.
All right.
Has the Canadian media picked up your story, like 680 News or so on?
No.
CFRP?
No.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, good morning.
I just have one suggestion for you.
Yes.
I don't know why Richard didn't do it, because I know I sense it's on his mind. But my suggestion for you would be to get a lawyer to write an official pre-action protocol letter to the Commissioner of Police, and by the extension the police service. I think that will have an immediate result. I have seen it in practice in Trinidad and Tobago already. Nothing is more effective than a lawyer letter, not something you could do or whatever. Nothing is more effective than a lawyer letter, especially a pre-action protocol letter. You're going to get back your stuff within 24 hours after a lawyer gets involved.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I appreciate the feedback, but it's been done. That's been done. My arrest was 2 weeks ago. We did that the following day with a lawyer. So, I mean, the reason I'm stepping in and doing it myself now is because nothing else has worked. There hasn't been even a response to our request when it's in email format.
It just seems like vindictiveness. If the charges against you have been dropped for the money laundering, your equipment should be returned immediately. The first set for sedition, and you're absolutely right. Even the sedition charges, the flash drivers, the memory cards could have been taken, and the devices could have been returned. It just seems like pure wickedness from the TTPS.
Well, I believe the motive is just to silence me. And I've told them, you know, if somebody would have asked me, Chris, just don't record, I would have stopped recording. Like, I'm not stubborn, but to continually go through this where I have to keep buying new equipment, none of it makes sense to me.
But all they're going to succeed in doing is making you more famous, more successful, and people are going to donate stuff to you now. All they're going to do is make you bigger.
I agree.
Making you bigger. Have a good day, Mr. Hughes. Safe flight back, and thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me this contribution.
All right, no problem. Good morning, call. Oops, a lot of calls coming through here just now. Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I always say I love the platform because this Rob, by the way, I love the platform because it brings education to people. Mr. Chris, I really thought, honestly, before listening to the program today, he was doing it for likes and clicks and shares and so on because, you know, that's how YouTubers make their money, correct? But now after listening to what you're saying, you actually bring up some valid points about Trinidad, inefficiencies in the security services, one of which is a very, very pertinent point you just said, is that they have cameras in these places already. And the cameras, they're supposed to be working. So what you are showing and putting out there for the world to see, which is much different, as you said, as from a media house like Vice and National Geographic. You're a person that's now in the trend, because people don't really watch Vice and younger people don't really watch Vice and or National Geographic as it was before. The followers that you have that they're showing out to the world is not the side of Trinidad and Tobago they want people to see, because they have. I've been watching. I see Mark Weens, some other of the YouTubers. They bring here to show the positive side of Trinidad and Tobago, and what you're really doing is showing the negative. But
you know what? Can I interject very quickly? You know, Mark Weens was paid by the Tourism Board of Trinidad and Tobago to come here and film.
He says it. He says it plain as day on his videos.
Right.
He was brought here by the Visit TT. He was
paid big bucks to do it.
And he's paid a lot of money to come to Trinidad. Everything he did here in Trinidad was sponsored, which is why I'm saying it's a good thing I listened to your video, your interview this morning, because I honestly was of the fact that you're just doing this for clicks, because people like Bacchanal, and what you showing is Bacchanal. But the thing that changed my mind to it was you said in these areas that you go to, there are police cameras, there are street poles with cameras, there are cameras there already. And if they were working, they already knew what you showed. The difference between the two is that it is not a secret anymore. So now they cannot say, well, we didn't know.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes. You know, if you gentlemen don't mind, because it's a question I get quite often about doing this for views and money. I've never done this on camera here before, but what I've done is I'm opening up my dashboard on YouTube, right? I'm going to show you, this is over the last 30 days. Let's see if we can see this. This is my earnings in Canadian dollars. Okay, over the last 30 days, $5,000. So I don't know what that's equivalent to, maybe 3,500 US. My expenses to be here are over $10,000. I've given up, like, without me sounding like an arrogant jerk, you know, I've been successful my whole life. Me doing YouTube is a downgrade. Okay, I'm not doing this for money. If I was doing this for money, I wouldn't be doing YouTube. Now, there are big people that have 100 million views that are doing quite well for themselves, but my kind of content doesn't get that. So there isn't a month that goes by that I'm on YouTube that I'm not losing money. Lucky I've been successful for the rest of my life prior to YouTube, and I have some savings that I'm blowing through very quickly. So for those that think I'm here to make an earning off the problems of Trinidad and Tobago, it's just so far-fetched. It's so delusional. Like, this is not a screenshot that I created. Like, this is me in my studio today, clicking and showing what my earnings are. This is not profitable.
But
right?
Mr. Hughes, I think I should let you know, though, but because you do have a following. Because whilst I thought that Paul and Richard and Steve were handsome, and I was the handsomest of all, your program with us got the most views thus far of all our programs. So it has to be something with you.
No, there's no doubt, but there's no doubt that people watch the content, but it's not profitable, right? My reason for doing it has never been money. You know, how much money would you have to pay me to go to war? I'm going to war because I don't want to say I enjoy war, but I enjoy the documentation of history and things that are happening. So I'm not doing this for money. And there's a percentage of people in Trinidad and around the world that say Chris comes here to exploit and make all this money. I spend a lot more money than I make. And this is my whole earnings for YouTube for the month.
All right, let's grab this call. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning to Mr. Chris.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
I sympathize with your position, and I hope that everything goes well. But I want to raise something to you.
Yeah.
One of the things is that when you mentioned that Mr. Singh was more passionate, it is only human nature that when you've been directly affected, that you respond in a different way. And that is only nature. So it's not that he didn't. I don't know if that was what he was saying, but it's not that he didn't care or he cared more now that it happened. But it's only human nature that when something happened to you, because when my children, I used to see people falling down and crying and all kind of when the children died, and I used to think, well, why they getting on like that? And when my son and my daughter died, I realized what it was. You have to have real heart to stand for them. And the next thing is, the cameras that we are saying that is installed, those fellas will not do what they do with you in front of those cameras. They select certain times and you see them on social media displaying guns and all that kind of thing. And what has happened in your case, Mr. Chris, they get an opportunity to display. They get an opportunity to display under and feel protected under you because of the work you're doing. Now, I ain't saying that you're doing anything bad or anything like that, but I'm telling you, the mindset of it is that they're being exposed and they're actually flaunting. If you look at it, so it's not that you would have brought out anything or think that they would know, because what you mean in Trinidad here, no media person or police cannot go in there to do that. There was a guy they call Wayne Chan.
Make it quick, call. I have a lot of calls coming through.
Yes, there was a guy they called Wayne Chan who went in St. Paul Street, and he was from prison. And when he went there to do what you know what they told him? The luckiest thing, otherwise your head would have been rolling back down the hill.
But respectfully, that's your opinion, right? That's not factual, because there are plenty of people in jail right now that show their guns in front of those cameras. We hear about it every day. I read the newspaper inside and out every day. People are caught shooting. Most crimes are committed on camera, period. So it's not factual that they don't walk around the community, because they do. People are arrested by it. So I'm not the first one to show guns in these communities.
No, you are not the
All right, thank you, caller.
Opportunity. They get an opportunity when somebody like you go to do that. That is what I'm saying.
Thank you. All right, let's keep it short. We have a lot of calls coming through. Good morning, caller.
Hey, morning,
Mr. Patrick. Go ahead.
Well, Richard is Ragoobarsingh.
Morning, Mr. Patrick.
Good morning.
It's strange enough to see as a foreigner from a different country come to Trinidad, get yourself involved in some kind of legal battles, and your country, you have nobody to represent it and back you up. You find that strange, brother?
You think that if that was also Mr. Patrick?
I mean,
Mr. Patrick, answer me something. Mr. Patrick, answer me something. If you were in New York and you were in trouble like that, because you went filming where you weren't supposed to film, and let's say the New York authorities arrested you, the Trinidad and Tobago embassy would have come to your assistance?
I believe so.
Good luck, Mr. Patrick. Bless you.
I believe when people from Trinidad was in another country, the footballer, and we Trinidad and Tobago government assist the man to come home. I know in
that's different, Mr. Patrick.
Not with legal troubles.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
So What is it, Mr. Hugh? Is that troublemaker?
Nobody ever. That's your words.
You're not listening.
Legal troubles, Mr. Patrick. If
Thank
you
you.
driving cross country across the United States and police pull you over and give you a ticket for speeding, you think you could get the embassy to intervene? No, pay a ticket.
Exactly. Good morning.
Like, who's this?
Good morning, our listener from Los Angeles. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Steve. Good morning to Wendell. Good morning,
Morning, sir. Morning, LA.
So I want to, Mr. Paul Richard, good morning. And good morning, Richard. Mr. Paul Richard, I would like to advocate for Wendell to be on the program 5 days a week. That's a suggestion.
I'm going up with that dashboard like Mr. Hughes, you know, with that small money.
Go ahead.
Mr. Hughes, good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Glad to hear you okay. Everything is well. You get a passport, everything. Mr. Hughes, I don't make political statements. These guys know me. I call this program all the time. I don't make political statements. But I just hope that when all is said and done, you see this kind of victimization you're going through with this. That's sometimes they say Trinidad is not a real place. People is vexed when they say that. And you see what is going through. I hope when it's all is said and done, and you sue the state, and that they pay money. You see the people who make these decisions to make these calls. I hope them have to pay and not the taxpayers of this country have to pay. You see this kind of crazy thing. I want to apologize on behalf of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago for the stuff you're going through. I mean, it's so unfair, bro. I mean, what about I live in abroad? So how would I feel if I go to another country and they treat me? I don't, you know what I mean? If they charge you, they drop the charges, give you back your equipment and something. I don't understand that at all. I just hope, I said one more time, I just hope that the people who make this decision to victimize you and do these things, they have to pay. When they sue them, they have to pay the lawsuit. Good day, guys, and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks, LA. We know that.
It's not going to happen.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to the Powell family.
Morning.
The guys can hear me.
Yep, in Orlando.
And the Powell family. You know what Mr. Patrick was saying is actually true, because at the end of the day, it comes to general office out here, and that handles the U.S. coast and everything like that, up the coastline, up to the northeast and the northwest coastline. You could go to them, and they do stand up for you no matter what the situation is at hand. I find it very strange also too that the Canadian government is like numb. They're not really reacting to the situation at hand. But what Mr. Patrick did say, you see this Consul General that we have here in New York City, he's out there and he's batting for you 1,000,000%. And no matter, he's handling the whole East Coast from Florida all the way up to what you call it, Vermont. All right? You guys stay safe.
Yeah, thanks. But you know, strange enough, in our first interview with Mr. Hughes, he did say that if he was a U.S. citizen, that the reaction would have been different. You did say that, didn't you?
Yeah. Those are my thoughts. I will never really know, right? But those were my thoughts.
Yes. Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Hughes, listen attentively to what you're saying. I just want to ask a question. Prior to arriving in Trinidad and Tobago, what knowledge did you have of this twin island, and what motivated you to actually come here and do these videos when you had options of other places? So, if it is up, you can answer me those questions.
Yeah, for sure. Trinidad is my country 128. So I chose to go to 127 countries, some of them multiple times before I chose to come to Trinidad. Nothing brought me here other than the fact that I'm trying to see every country in the world. So I didn't come for gangs. When I come to a new country, the first 2 or 3 days is sort of like my research. I call it walk and talk. I just hit the ground and walk for hours and hours and hours and talk to people and just try to come up with a long list of stories I'd like to film. So my first day in Trinidad, you can find it on my YouTube channel. And I walk around Chinatown and I find myself at Duncan Street and Nelson. And some children brought me into the neighborhood where I spoke to, we'll call them people of the community. And that's when the topic came up of like Rasta versus Muslim. I had no prior knowledge, even the numbers. the numbers gangs. I had no previous knowledge at all, but nothing in particular brought me here. I was well aware of the crime statistics before I came to Trinidad, but that's not the reason I came.
All right, let's take our final call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I want Wendell to retract something he said earlier. This is all that you have to show to get views. Wendell, I'm sorry for all your station. So retract what you said.
No.
What?
No. See that? The interview Mr. Hughes.
I didn't catch it. I'm sorry. I don't understand what happened.
Is the immediacy of your no Wendell.
Mr. Hughes, in addition, well, the crime thing is one thing, but you also said it's a beautiful country, which of course we all agree with because it's our country.
Yes.
What do you think people need to see more of that would have warmed your heart upon coming to this country? What are you impressed by?
If we took somebody to go on YouTube today and just typed in Trinidad and Tobago and counted the number of videos that are uploaded, I would say 99% plus of the videos ever uploaded from this country have nothing to do with gangs or guns. Okay, the biggest culprit of uploading the criminality side of the country would be the news, right? Because companies, media need to put out what's going on. The average vlogger is putting out the food, the tradition, the carnival, the fun time at the beach, and etc. It's just that people remember, like my videos. I've uploaded 35 videos. I think 8 of them were like no-go zones. What about the other ones that I uploaded? What I would say is, if I was in control of the tourism board in Trinidad and Tobago, which I'm not, if I want to sort of decide what kind of content is being uploaded, make the investment. Like the caller called and said, Mark Weens. Mark Weens is a very big YouTuber. He's taken 18 years to get to where he's at, millions and millions of followers. Make the investment. Pay people that you feel will show the good light of your country. But remember,
so what videos that you have uploaded that shows the good side of Trinidad and Tobago?
I believe every video shows some good aspects. Well, 2 days ago I uploaded the Bubble Hill, the Rasta camp, which might not be good for tourism, but for locals, they were unaware that there's a community of 250 people living at the top of the mountain.
And had you uploaded that kind of stuff before?
Yes, always.
Okay.
People look at me as a controversial, but I mean, if we were just to go through my list of videos here, I think you'd be surprised. I did a whole big piece. I went to the 3 biggest steel pan yards. It's my least viewed video. Took me the longest to film, where I spent hours and hours with them. I did the piece.
I would imagine All Stars was one of those.
All Stars was one of them.
You just came back from Tobago. What did you like about Tobago? What you loved about Tobago? What stood out?
I didn't do much. I didn't have a camera. I used somebody else's camera for a day, but I enjoyed laying down and just relaxing, taking a break from everything.
Mental relief.
Yes.
All right. Chris Hughes, I want to thank you so much for being with us on the Paul Breakfast Show. Have a safe trip back to TO tomorrow.
Thank you guys very much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the best.
You should market that hat. You should market that hat.
Yeah.
Lord alone knows plenty of our listeners and callers need
Wendell, retract that right now.
Coming up after the 8 a.m. news, we have Power Conversations. Host will be Kimiko Scott, who's a social behavior change and communicator and a PhD student. And her guest will be Alicia Roberts, a psychologist of the Rape Crisis Society. You'll have a wonderful day and please be safe out there.
All right. Folks, have an absolutely wonderful day. I know
Wendell, retract that. Take it back.
The reality is that the interview we had with Mr. Hughes was, in fact, our most looked at program. Yeah. That's a fact. So nothing to
gotta go, guys.
All right, folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God.
So I just want to remind people that theater will be on at the end of the month. Our brand new play called That's Extravagant News. What happens in the dark comes to the light.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
That's at the end of
Good day, guys. We will chat with you all bright tomorrow morning. Let's get into 8 o'clock news break.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
This is your update to 8 o'clock. I'm Avril Sanjel Bob. Good morning. Christmasless Hughes says he will be traveling tomorrow after his passport was returned to him. He told the Power Breakfast Show this morning that the only reason he hasn't left yet was because he wanted his electronic equipment back. He said that the cameras have no internal memory, so he could not understand what evidence the authorities were expecting to retrieve from the equipment. He explained he does not have the money to keep buying new equipment. He revealed that there were 2 sets of equipment taken from him, one during the sedition charge and when he was charged with money laundering. He said so far he has been denied his equipment, but he, through his lawyers, have written an urgent letter informing the authorities that he is about to leave the country and requires his equipment, but he is yet to receive a reply. He says he continues to represent himself in his sedition charge. He said that many senior counsels have offered their help pro bono, but he's unsure of their motives. He informed he does have some help, but no legal counsel for his sedition charge. He disclosed that persons have also volunteered from the Caribbean and Canada, but he wants to ensure their motives are sincere. Commenting on the recent robbery of Minister Terence Deyalsingh, he said while he was sorry he was robbed, he could not help but wonder why it took a robbery for the minister to realize the severity of crime. He stated that this situation may have been the kick in the pants needed to give the government a reality check on the crime situation. He said hopefully Minister Deyalsingh opens his eyes and realizes the severity of the problem and is willing to do something about it. He said the health minister is more passionate now because it's happened to him. Minister of Health, a member of Parliament for St. Joseph, Deyalsingh, was robbed at gunpoint of a gold bracelet on Tuesday afternoon after he sat outside the Nyabingi bar at the corner of Abercrombie and King Streets in his constituency of St. Joseph. A video of him telling someone what happened was posted to social media yesterday evening and has been making the rounds on social media. He said in the video, "I am in St. Joseph in my constituency, 5 o'clock, hot sun, bright sun, sitting outside Nyabingi bar opposite the church with a constituent. 2 fellas walk up to me, put a gun to my head and robbed me of my bracelet." An opposition Senator Dr. Tim Gopi Singh was escorted out of the Senate by a marshal on Tuesday following crosstalk and failure to follow advice of the Senate President. The drama unfolded during the committee stage of the Miscellaneous Provisions Global Forum Bill 2024. At the time, Finance Minister Colm Imbert was seeking to make his point in response to statements made earlier by 2 opposition members. Well, that was your update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full at 12 noon.
All right, thank you so much, Avril, for our news brief. You could join her again. Come at noon today along.
To digital.
All righty. It is 2 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock on this Hump Day Wednesday, 18th day of September, and let's welcome our host, Kamiko Scott. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you so much, Steve. How are you doing?
Not bad at all. Few scattered showers.
That's good news, especially with all the flooding happening in the last 2 days.
That was rain.
Yeah.
All right, and let's no problem. And let's introduce your guest online, Alyssa. Let me pronounce that name. The Gazon Roberts.
Yes.
Did I get it right?
You did.
All right, I get a doubles for that. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, for being here. Good morning, Powered 102 listeners at home and abroad. I'm Kamiko Scott, and it's my pleasure to engage you today in Power Conversations, having been invited by your usual host, Mrs. Denise Deming, to host today's show. For your reminder, the numbers to chat, connect with us are 222-TALK, that's 222-8255. In the US and Canada, you can message toll-free or call toll-free 866-525-1099 or on WhatsApp at 868-318-1021. Talking to Alyssa Degazo Roberts this morning. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Lovely. I want to let you guys know that Alyssa Degazo Roberts is a professional counselor with over 10 years experience in the field. Her work focuses on stress and anxiety management, grief and recovery, co-parenting, counseling, relational issues, and sexual and gender-based violence. She has also worked providing counseling support for persons impacted by intimate partner violence, as well as numerous at-risk youth populations. I personally have interacted with Alyssa through her work with the Rape Crisis Society, and where she offers counseling support. Again, Alyssa, thank you so much. Tell me, what was your motivation to study psychology and get into counseling?
This is a question that we get a lot throughout our profession. And I would say the short answer is just curiosity. From a really young age, I was always very interested in learning about not just the minds of people, but their behaviors, hearing their stories, how they looked at the world. And I just found it really fascinating how our beliefs and our fears and our environment just all work together to influence how we relate to the world. So, and also like any or many of us in the mental health field, there was also a personal element where a relative of mine struggled with mental health challenges. So that was personal exposure to it, and it really piqued my curiosity.
Lovely, thank you. And you say that people may have been, your motivation may have been your family member and other experiences as you grew up. But when should people access counseling? I know that we have a little stigma against it, perhaps, a worry that we'll be judged if we needed counseling. But what sort of issues, or when should someone feel the need to access counseling?
Yes, that's a really good question. I think, well, there are various reasons why somebody might want to seek therapy or counseling, and it could be anything like a life transition. So let's say going through grief or a lifestyle problem. So something like depression or anxiety, or even sleeping problems, having a relationship problem. But I think a really good rule of thumb is to look at how much the problem is affecting your ability to function in the world. So is it affecting how you're sleeping, or is it affecting your appetite? Something as simple as frequent intrusive thoughts that can affect our ability to focus at work. So at that point, it can be really helpful to talk to somebody who is not a close friend or a family member, and that's what we do in our culture. There's this fear of going to counseling, like you rightfully said, the stigma of accessing counseling is seen as this sign of weakness, or it's only for somebody who has a really serious issue. We don't do that. We don't talk about our problems, but it can be so helpful to have this space where you're not being judged. Someone understands what you're going through, and you're not responsible for that person. You don't have a tie to that person, so you can be as open and candid as you want to be. So I think it's a really good tool to help you make sense of a difficult experience that you're going through. And the funny thing is, sometimes you don't even have to have a problem. It can be used as just this maintenance. The same way that we go and we service our cars, we can have this ongoing form of self-care. And a lot of people use therapy as that mental health maintenance. Nothing has to be wrong. It's just like going and getting your own little tune-up.
Yeah. And I think you've mentioned some really important points there. The fact that people may have experiences that they don't really understand are affecting them mentally. So you may be experiencing inability, you're not being able to sleep, or you're having trouble sleeping, but you attribute that to maybe, okay, I stayed up late last night, and maybe it is, or I'm getting over a cold, never really applying it to maybe the troubles I have had, or the issue is bigger than I think it is, and it is affecting me mentally. And you also mentioned that perhaps counseling can be a maintenance of good mental health. So having somebody to check in or to engage with that will be non-judgmental outside of our family. How does that experience impact your clients? How have you seen that having that unjudgmental party, how has that influenced your clients?
Well, we see so many different responses to that, but mostly it's this sense of feeling safe. You know, a lot of people have questions. One of the most popular questions is that normal? Yeah, and just giving someone that permission to say it's okay to have this experience is very freeing. So you see that freedom come alive when someone enters the therapeutic space. It's very I always feel very privileged to be able to do this work.
Excellent. What are some of the expected outcomes of counseling? So somebody decides, I'm going to access counseling. What should they expect will be the result of that experience?
Yes, and for those listening, I think sometimes we can use a lot of jargony words. So just to explain, an outcome is nothing big. It is just, what do we want the end result of counseling to be? So much like the reasons we would come to counseling, the expected results can vary. So that may be something as simple as, I want to get a better understanding of myself. Why do I react this way when someone says something to me? So getting that understanding of yourself, or maybe of how you could do something differently in your life. Most importantly, how you could respond to the negative behaviors of others. There's a joke that goes around that, people who come to counseling go to counseling to deal with everyone else in their life who will not go to counseling. So really just learning how you could respond when, someone triggers you, someone activates a certain part of you, or even just understanding the things that happen in our lives. Life can be really challenging. There are so many demands on our time. So being able to have that personal power, and being able to access, what is going on for me in my life, and understanding. So really it's a lot of knowledge building, lots of understanding happening, helping you to manage and feel a little bit better.
And I think people don't generally acknowledge that that's a part of their health that they may need to take care of. So having intrusive negative thoughts, or trauma triggers, or feeling the need to check and double check your front door every day or every couple of minutes to make sure it's locked. These responses are rooted in your mind. And perhaps you don't understand the source of that response. Can you share with us some of the issues that perhaps you've seen in your counseling experience?
Right. So in my counseling experience, it's been really varied. So particularly in my work with the Rape Crisis Society, we see whether it's child abuse or domestic violence or even sexual assault, there is some kind of egregious violation that a client has experienced, and that can be physically or emotionally. And a lot of times we focus on the physical aspect, but we don't give a lot of attention to the emotional aspect, because that's not something we can actively see. But I think that part can be even more impactful, because this egregious violation is usually done by a person in whom the client had a lot of trust. So it's usually a partner or a parent or a caregiver. And what happens is this violation almost just overturns the whole world for the client. It overturns the way that the client is able to look at the world, to cope with the world. And that's the mark of trauma, feeling like your whole system is completely overwhelmed. You cannot deal. Yeah. And how this can show up is we often see somebody who is stuck in some version of the fight, flight, or freeze response. And I know this is something that everyone has heard about, being in fight or flight. And that looks so different. So we can see someone who has had a violation and they struggle to leave their house. So like you were just talking about, checking the locks, or looking outside, every noise that we hear, those can be ways that it shows up, and we don't even realize, because we're so focused on the process, we're not really thinking about what is motivating it. And that's a way of us being plagued by our own thoughts. and it's informing our behavior. So it really can look so many different ways, and we just have to attend to whatever is brought in by our client.
And that sounds like some pretty heavy issues or experiences that people are accessing counseling with you for. How did you decide to work with the Rape Crisis Society?
Yes. So, I mean, I've been familiar with the work that Rape Crisis does for ages. But I think I started working with the Rape Crisis Society because I believe that quality mental health care should be accessible to everyone. And unfortunately, what we are seeing nowadays is that these people who have a critical need for these services are not able to access quality or compassionate care. And I want to stress that compassionate care. So I decided to work, with this organization as a personal responsibility. I think that the underserved populations need to get the same dignity and quality of care that others receive. So I took up that mantle in my little way by, working
Signing on.
And I think it's important to do this work too of, educating persons about the experiences that everyone or a lot of people have. We hear the numbers all the time. So I really am passionate about this work.
And to add some context, you mentioned hearing the numbers, and the worldwide statistic remains 1 in 3 women experience some form of sexual or gender-based violence in their lifetime. And I think I've been doing a lot of work where I ask people, think of your 3 closest friends. And when you think of them, maybe they have not shared that trauma or traumatic experience with you, but have a moment where you think of the fact that if I have 5 friends, it may be that at least one of them has experienced some form of sexual or gender-based violence. And also through your work with the Rape Crisis Society, of course, you're seeing people free of charge for counseling. So counseling is offered for free. And do you find that how do you deal with managing the stigma or the fear that someone might have to access counseling? How do you help them get over that fear?
Well, I think it's important to realize that everyone has these issues. We may not talk about them, but it's really about giving the information about how widespread these experiences are and the reasons why someone can access counseling. So a lot of our work goes into educating the client first about their experiences, about the process of counseling, and giving that information, giving permission to, normalizing it. That's a word that everyone uses, normalizing the experience, and just trying to educate about the impact, and helping them feel at ease with accessing that. I think people are becoming more open to it, thankfully, but there's still a lot of work to do. Absolutely.
This idea that if I am admitting that I need support for my mental health, that something must be wrong with me. And you mentioned that idea of normalizing and it being an education from the start. Can you share perhaps some of what you have to switch persons' thinking from? So you're saying normalize, but what does that process look like?
Well, it's about showing that this is how our bodies work. It's as simple as a biological process. So when we think about trauma, a lot of people see it as, an earthquake or having this big experience. But it can be something as day to day as, having your home broken into and feeling your safety just violated, feeling your personal space violated. And when you're able to bring the experience of trauma and how it affects your mental health from this macro or big experience to something more personal, I think that's where we start to realize that wait, no, this could have been my neighbor. My neighbor could be accessing counseling, and I wouldn't have known. So that is a really comforting thing for a lot of persons, understanding that nothing is wrong with you. It's just a normal response. It is an understandable response to a big experience that you may have had.
And in the context of sexual violence or domestic violence, I know that there's also the re-education of it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about how you help somebody get to that place? Because I know that persons who experience violence, they may have a self-confidence challenge or may have caused a self-confidence challenge, or their mindset may be, this happened because of something I did, or this happened because of something I wore, or this is really me that caused this. How does that re-education of it wasn't your fault, how does that happen in the counseling space?
So I think we come back to the core of what has happened to this person. And I think that's what makes gender-based violence so distinct, because it is such an intrusive experience for the client, and it really causes these feelings of, the shame and the self-blame and guilt. So when we come into the counseling space, and we have to acknowledge that a psychologist, a therapist, a social worker has a certain degree of training and expertise that the client naturally looks to for guidance, that has to be used very carefully in showing that, it wasn't your fault. It's not you to be blamed. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't do anything bad. To give that comfort. So a lot of the education about why these things occur, and that's about power and control, and really trying to intimidate someone. So that type of education makes the client realize that there's nothing that I could have done differently. Now we balance that with safety, trying to reinstill the safety for the clients as well, to get back that sense of power. But there's so much just creating that safe space, using that the fact that you are a trained professional and you have been exposed to the research and the process of it, which a client is not always aware of. So that is the form of normalizing, of saying, it's not because of you that this happened. This could happen to anybody. And it does. We were talking about these statistics across the world, but the Kenyan Olympian who, was recently burned by her partner, Rebecca Cheptegei, and that was not her fault, So this can happen to anyone. It's not a particular profile of client that it happens to.
And we haven't used any gender-specific terms, but I want to point out that you've also had sessions or engaged in counseling with men who may have experienced gender-based violence. Is that any different? Is that providing counseling for men? Does that look any different from anyone else?
Well, you have to be very culturally competent, because naturally within society we have different ways of socializing women and men. But I think at its core, in terms of trauma-focused care, we meet the need of the client. So in terms of reinforcing that safety, and again going through the space of empowering the client, helping the client to feel a sense of control, or reinserting that sense of control. It can look very similar, but we do have to keep in mind that the experiences of a male survivor can be very, very different from a female survivor. And we have to attend to that. So there can be even more shame for a male survivor, because it is not something that we've been trained to talk about. It's not something that is popularized, so there's a lot of minimizing a male survivor's experience. So we have to attend to that. We have to let them know that it's okay to talk about it. There's no shame in talking about it, for sure.
And I know in our cultural context, as you mentioned, that we have to be so aware of how society is shaped. In our cultural context, there's a tradition or a mindset of older women having relationship with teenage boys or starting them off or being their first sexual experience. And men, as they grow older, seeing that as an accomplishment rather than perhaps it was an advantage. Have you ever interacted with someone that you had to share with them that this wasn't normal? The fact that somebody who was in their 30s or 40s was engaging in activities with you when you were 14 is not a pips.
Yeah.
It was a form of abuse that may have shaped your view of sexual experiences. How do you talk to a client who that may have been an issue they face?
Yeah. So I like to say it's important to build a relationship with the client first. So building that rapport where there is a sense of trust and you can meet them where they are at. I think, like you said, there's the idea that, oh no, that was normal, you know, that was okay. And I acknowledge that as a survivor, sometimes we have to do or tell ourselves things that help us to make it through. So it may not have felt that way in the moment, but in our making sense of things and trying to survive, we frame things in a way that we can digest. So coming in, you know, there can't be confrontation without that trust. So gently suggesting, you know, the power differential that a 40-plus-year-old or even a 30-plus-year-old has developmentally for a teenager is not okay. It's absolutely not okay. And you know, my concentration is in a lot of sexual education, and I think we need to do more about that. But not a lot of people know that in just the general principles of good sexual health, there has to be consent. There has to be, you know, that type of shared consent between the partners. And a young person or a teenager cannot consent to that activity with an older person because they don't have the information. They often don't have the information because we don't provide it. So just on that base level, we see the gap. And the reason why it's like, oh yeah, that was okay, because we don't have the information as to why it's not. So we really need to do a better job of giving that information. So there isn't a question to begin with.
Yeah. And that education has to happen across our society. Because we do have some pervasive cultural ideas that do encourage perhaps sexual violence or gender-based violence just in their root. Our approach could be leading to danger or leading to incidences. Do you have any suggestions of how we should be doing that kind of education?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think we have to be developmentally appropriate.
Yes.
The type of education that we would give to a 5-year-old is not the same type of information we would give to a 15-year-old. And I think for persons who say, well, giving this information can lead to more violence or more inappropriate behaviors, not having the information is doing the same thing. So when we are able to arm the kids and younger persons with the information as to what is not okay, what is you know, something that someone should not engage you in that way. So we talk about even grooming, the types of conversations that adults will have with a child, the things that they're exposed to. Having a younger person be able to know for themselves, this doesn't feel good in my body. In that basic way is powerful, because once that power, you know, powerful person or that person of authority comes in and breaches that, they know immediately this
doesn't feel right. Yeah,
and I need to tell somebody. I need to tell somebody. So it actually reduces the occurrence of it. I mean, the research shows that it absolutely reduces, instead of having the question, a 5-year-old may not know what to do. They're like, okay, this happened, but this person is an adult. They are the authority figure. And I've been taught to obey my authority. Yeah. So being able to have that distinction is absolutely powerful through all of our child protection, our family members. Not keeping secrets is another aspect of sex ed, where you're not supposed to keep secrets that could harm you or that can have you feeling badly. So educating persons about that is very powerful in reducing sexual violence.
And what you're mentioning seems to be that from as young as 4 or 5 years old, we need to share with young people or children body autonomy. This is my space, that is your space, the correct names for their body parts, what should not be touched, and who are people that you can tell if you feel violated, and establishing that trust with a parent or somebody who they can rely on to keep their safety first.
Yeah, you said a powerful thing. You said the word body autonomy, and I just want to even insert here, culturally, when we go to different relatives, there is a demand often for children to hug or kiss or sit on the laps of relatives. And if they
go and hug your uncle, go and give your uncle a kiss.
Yes, we know that. I know that. I've experienced that. And the child, in showing discomfort, is taught to not trust their response. And that's something I see with our clients who have experienced trauma, where they have been taught that they can't trust themselves. And that's a connection there. That's a really big connection where, well, somebody's telling me that I don't want to kiss uncle, but they're telling me that I have to. Absolutely, having that body autonomy and empowering young persons, empowering children as young as 3 or 4, that it's okay that you don't want to do this. Uncle can regulate himself. Uncle can understand. Uncle, understands why. Teaching that is critical. And that's just a simple thing that you can do now.
And I think that education is far more for the parent than it is for the child. It's the parent learning or being taught that from as young as 3 or younger, respecting or showing the child that their body is theirs, and they do have some sense of say if they ever feel uncomfortable. What do you say to parents to remind them that that's what they should be doing?
I think that comes down to seeing the child as a human being and not just an offshoot of you. Yes, there are some things that children do need to simply obey because we're trying to keep them safe. But, you can't run into the street because that's not body autonomy. That is, I need to keep you safe. But also understanding that this child is a human being and has their own feelings, has their own experiences and thoughts and desires, is going to be very powerful. And for parents, I think the most important thing is doing your own work. So going to counseling, accessing the information, because even as a parent myself, I think 80% of the work is regulating my own feelings. Because sometimes I admit, I just want my child to comply.
Do what I told them.
Do what I said, please. But then understanding that this process of not complying all of the time can serve later on. Because if a stranger or if a person who tells you to do something that doesn't feel right with you, you're not going to comply with them because I feel safe doing that. I understand that I can protect myself. So 80%, I will tell parents, 80% of the work is learning to do your own stuff, learning to regulate those emotions, understanding that yes, it's going to be tough, but doing that work is going to benefit your child. It's going to help you to be a better parent, indeed.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks so much. I think that's important for parents to hear. 80% of the work is regulating yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
And not getting upset by responses that may come naturally and to the child. If a response come naturally, maybe questioning, why is this the response you're having right now? Instead of canceling out the response completely.
Yes. A lot of the responses that we see are okay. They are developmentally appropriate. So when I do work with parents, I say, yes, that is a developmentally appropriate response from a 5-year-old or from a 15-year-old. Now, how do we respond to this so that we can use it and be more productive? But it's not to just shut down. It's to explore more. It's to also give the child the skills that they need, because that's where they get it from. They get it from observing parents. They get it from observing the adults around them. So we have to be able to give them the skill to regulate as well.
You mentioned that in your work with rape crisis, you may see a lot of persons who've experienced domestic or sexual violence or sexual abuse. Does the prevalence surprise you as a counselor? Have you ever wondered, wow, this is so prevalent among Trinbagonians? How come? Does it surprise you?
I think, there is always that human moment. First of all, remember that everyone, the experts, the doctors, the psychologists, we are all human. So even though we have been exposed to this and we know how to deal with it, there is going to be a moment where you feel like, wow, I can't believe that this is happening to my neighbor. I can't believe that this is happening in my country. And then you quickly manage yourself and pack it back, because the counseling space is not about your reaction.
Yes.
Dealing with the client. But absolutely, I think the prevalence, and not only the prevalence, but the severity. So the severity of certain acts absolutely still impacts me. And I think that is good that it impacts me, that I'm not jaded and I'm able to respond as a human being, that I'm able to still have that compassion and empathy and say, wow, this happened to you and you survived. That resilience comes out. Absolutely.
Would you say that that's one of the characteristics that you tap into during counseling, that idea of resilience, reminding clients that they have survived?
Yeah, I think so. I think in the trauma-focused care, part of it is not re-traumatizing the client, which it often happens in care, but definitely showing the client how they would have overcome, showing the client how they survived by whatever means necessary. Because often the client hasn't had that chance to process, what did I live through? What did I have to do to make it through? And showing them that can really give them a sense of pride, a sense of understanding of, wow, there is strength within me, even though this would have happened. So absolutely, that resilience with a lot of empathy, a lot of care, that it should not have happened, but even though it did, look at how you still survived.
Yeah, because I get the impression from feedback with our counselors that it's almost a shame spiral that can keep reoccurring, and it's almost like giving someone the tool to tell themselves, it wasn't my fault, I don't need to feel this way, because the thoughts may not go away just because you're in counseling.
Absolutely. And it's not about having it go away completely, because you're still human and we have memories. We're going to have flashbacks. That's one of the experiences of trauma that can develop into what we know as post-traumatic stress disorder, or even complex post-traumatic stress disorder, where, you know, there is this intrusive and recurring flashback or thought. And think about it this way: we get messages all the time about how we should be responding to things, how we should have acted. And that's a thought that comes into the counseling space so much. What should I have done? What did I not do right? You know, I was trying to do everything right. And we get messages from our family, we get messages from social media of what we're doing wrong all of the time. In social media, there is this constant space of judgment and of ridiculing. So it's understandable that there would be that self-blame, because the voice that our family talks to us in is the voice that we talk to ourselves in. So one of my favorite quotes ever says, "Shame dies when stories are told in safe places." And I think that's the power of the counseling space, you know, where we...
Ooh, hold on. I'm having an Oprah moment. Ooh. Say it again. Shame dies.
Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. Yeah.
And can you share what that safe space is? Because I think people feel maybe sitting down by the bar with my friends is a safe place. That's my girlfriend from a long time. She know my history. I could tell her. So what is a safe place?
I think a safe place is a person or a place, it could be yourself even, that just is able to witness your experience and your response. So there's no expectation. There is no regulation of what you should have done or what you could have done better. It is just being able to bear witness that this human being has lived through something that affected them, and they did what they had to in that moment, and that they're having normal responses to that. So we're not trying to pat down. You see, that's the thing with going by the bar, right? We just want to have a good time, right? So, you know, there's often the place of, you know, you'll be all right, man, or you know, just
study it.
Don't study it, you know, go and pray or something like that. And there is space for all of that other stuff, but allowing the response is important for that shame to be able to reduce that. Yes, I can understand why I reacted in this way. I can understand what happened to me. Absolutely.
And I think that's a call for all friends. If you are trying to be a great friend, how do you establish or create safe space? And you said it so well, that you're bearing witness to the experience, not judging, not reprimanding, not buffing, not quarreling, not ready to pick up a cutlass, but bearing witness and supporting the person from what they need rather than what you personally feel that you need to do or say.
Right. And that requires us separating ourselves from the person.
Yeah.
So as a friend, we know what we would like for our friend. As a sister or a relative or a mother, we know what we would like for this person. But understanding that I am separate from this person, and I don't know what I would have done in that. Maybe I could have reacted the same way. But being able to separate ourselves and simply just witness and say, yes, I could understand that. I get why this is happening for you. And that is not enabling. That is simply understanding. Now, there's another aspect of counseling and therapy, which has the person look inward and figure out what they can do to manage themselves. But that's after. Yes, we have to bear witness first and almost legitimize and say, yes, this happened to you. Because there's a lot of denial in the shame as well. Like, did this really happen to me? So,
And I think that perhaps an encouragement for people to access counseling support may be that if you are looking for that safe place, that safe space, where someone will bear witness and not be judgmental and not have their feelings for you overpower the role that they can play during your trauma. So people listening, if you have had an experience and you've been talking to a relative or a family member about it and not feeling like they're bearing witness, counseling may be an option. As a place where this person is professionally trained and not as close to you as a family member to really offer that space of bearing witness.
And to add to that, I think not only the safe place, but the confidential space. I want
yes, very important.
Very important. I want to highlight confidentiality because there's not a lot of that. A lot of persons think, well, you're my friend and this person is my friend, so by multiplication, they're your friend too.
They could know your business. If you tell me, I will tell them.
Yeah, or a relative. Well, we're family, so why can't I just share what's going on? That's okay. But confidentiality assists the dignity of someone, preserving the dignity. And there's just too much information everywhere. So we don't need to add to that. Having the when you sit down and you speak to a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, you know that what you say is not going anywhere. It's not going to your neighbor. It's not ending up on social media. It is staying where you said it. And there is so much trust in that, which a lot of persons who've been violated did not have before. So you see, that's the re-traumatization when we talk to a relative that they may not understanding just go and traumatize us again because they're violating the trust and the confidentiality. But that's not going to happen with counseling.
I want to ask you to take us into perhaps the process of counseling someone who's experienced intimate partner violence or domestic abuse. You mentioned that there would be that establishing trust, reminding them of confidentiality. But what may the counseling process look like?
Yeah. So there, I think when we work with clients, there's a reminder that counselors are trained professionals. So we have a treatment plan that is tailored specifically for this client. Because even though, let's say we take all of the persons who've experienced intimate partner violence, it affects that particular client in a very unique way. Because they may have different coping strategies. So we may have someone that comes in and they are very anxious. And part of the treatment plan will be, of course, giving them that sense of safety and control back by creating a safety plan. So in that safety plan, we can explore all the different ways that we can guard against any further trauma, any further violence. Yeah, so that can be something as simple as changing the locks on the door. Okay, how can we go about changing the locks on your door, or maybe putting in burglar proofing somewhere that your house isn't as accessible. So really going through this person's life and this person's challenges and tailoring it specifically for that client. So it can look very, very unique, whether it's safety planning or teaching them how to quiet their thoughts so that they could go to sleep in the night. Yeah. And that's what I think is so wonderful about counseling, that when you come in, it's not like we're taking a treatment plan and we're just applying it to you. It is listening to your story, listening to your struggles, and figuring out what is it that you need. Not what somebody told you that you should do or that you need. It's hearing you, and you're saying, okay, this is what I'm struggling with right now. This is what is impacting my ability to function, and working collaboratively to mitigate that, to reduce that in your life.
And I want to get just a little more specific in that context, because I know that when we talk safety planning, we may also be seeing a client who's in the midst of a domestic violence situation, who is going through that situation right at this moment. And part of that safety plan may be, how are they leaving the situation, whether they have kids, whether they have to pack up and go by somewhere where you're not known, whether you need police support, and building that safety plan that allows the person to leave is also something that you may have to do as part of the counseling space as well. What might that look like?
Yes, and even in the safety plan, what I want to mention is there is no prompting of you should leave, you have to leave now. It is giving that client the right to self-determination. And what that means is them being able to make certain decisions for themselves. So that safety plan in transitioning out can be as simple as, okay, so who are your safe numbers that you can call? Who are the safe people that can give you assistance, that if something is happening, that you can call them right away and they can come in and get you? Is there a neighbor that you trust, that you can count on them to call the police if there's noise or there's something happening? Can you prepare the children to take certain steps? If they're old enough, let's say that you have an older teen child. What are the steps that this child can take? Of course, not getting involved in the violence, but in keeping themselves safe. Because for parents, of course, it's not just myself experiencing this violence. My child is also exposed to it. So keeping myself and the child safe. So it can also be a family intervention in the counseling space of, these are the numbers that you can have. These are the things that you can gather. What are the important things that you need to have if you decide to make a quick exit, and where can you go? Or even providing numbers, safe numbers or hotlines that can be engaged. It's a very, very, as I say, collaborative, very, very intense process a lot of times.
And thinking about making that move could be happening for someone over years, over months, over a very long time, and accessing counseling can really help them to establish a plan for themselves, giving them a sense of confidence, or giving them just mapping things out in their mind that can help make something happen, or progress the situation to a safer place.
Right. Yes. I mean, certainly, because remember, we talked about the outcomes and what could be experienced. And a lot of times people, again, the judgment space of why didn't you leave? Why couldn't you leave? Not understanding the fight, flight, or freeze. Being in a state of freeze can be not even feeling like you have the strength to even pack a bag and leave, because your body is just trying to stay alive right now. So working with that client and helping them to see themselves can be a small step in clicking something on and saying, wait, no, I can do this. I feel like somebody is in my corner. I feel like there's somebody that I could rely on. Because with intimate partner violence, there is that sense of isolation, that sense of alienation from everyone, because, this has been going on for so long, nobody taking me on anymore. But your counselor, your psychologist is going to be in your corner, because we are witnessing what you're experiencing.
And because we, as a counselor, we have to separate ourselves from personal emotions. And I know that Miss Natalie O'Brady always shares with us a statistic about going back. And that in an intimate partner or domestic violence situation, someone may go back 3 to 4 times, even after they've left.
Mhm.
It's really the counseling space that will provide no judgment,
Yes.
that won't get fed up of this person and their behavior or their mental choice or their choice to return to this person who has been violent.
Right, because the concern is for the person.
Yeah.
Right? The concern is, are you safe? I've asked that question so many times. Are you safe right now? Are you in a safe place? Are you in a private space? Because even speaking to the client can be a risk.
Yeah.
That's just, one of the occupational hazards of doing this work, making sure that your client is safe and separating your feelings from what they are living.
Yeah.
That they have to live in their lives 24/7, and I am witnessing for 1 hour. So having a lot of compassion for that is very important. Absolutely.
I think you've mentioned that fight, flight, or freeze, but can you just give us what that may look like for different people? Or what are some of the characteristics of each stage or phase?
Yeah. So what, in terms of the fight, flight, or freeze response, it's a biological process, right? So our brain naturally goes into fight, flight, or freeze response. And there's other things, but we won't go into that right now. But, the fighting can be very much that I need to take on that. So I take on this threat that is coming at me. So my muscles get tense. I might clench my fist and be ready to attack or defend myself. The flight can look very much like running away from the situation, leaving the situation, shutting down, not even wanting to deal with it, just going blank. And freeze is similar to that of I just go blank. I'm not engaging. I'm just sitting. I'm just taking someone shouting at me, or I'm just, taking the physical attack where I can't do anything else. I go into this state where nothing is responding right now.
Yeah.
So it's a natural response, and what people don't realize is it happens. It happens whether it's not a conscious thing. It just, when a threat happens, our brain naturally picks one. and that's what happens to us. And there's no judgment in it, because
It's biological.
we are animals like everyone else. So that happens, and we deal with the aftermath.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken a lot about how survivors may be assisted or persons may be supported through counseling. And let's perhaps end on a high note. Could you share some of the success moments or some of the signs that someone is doing well, or some of the great outcomes of counseling?
Oh gosh, those are the glimmers. Those are the wonderful moments that we all just wait for. And there are the big ones of I left the relationship, or I finally got a job and I'm more independent. Because often we don't talk about the violence of the financial abuse aspect, where someone isn't able to work or isn't able to take care of themselves. So we do have those moments of I got a job, and we celebrate with them. It's almost like we get the job, we're like, yes. So those moments. But I have had, even, and I don't quantify it, I've had other responses of a person telling me I was able to sleep through the night. And I celebrate that equally as much as someone leaving a relationship or getting a job, because this affects a human being's functioning.
Yeah.
So being able to sleep through the night may not be a big deal for someone else, but it is the
Such a big deal. Yeah.
for this person. So being able to sleep through the night, or being able to take a taxi somewhere and not feel an overwhelming sense of anxiety or fear for their own safety. Those are some of the just wonderful moments where I just marvel at, human resilience and the human ability to overcome. So I love those moments. Those are the moments that I work for. Absolutely.
I think that's so important to remind folks as well that there are positive outcomes coming out of dealing with a trauma that you may have experienced. And for each individual, that positive may be different. And through counseling, the aim is really to guide you through to that outcome, that change that can positively impact your life.
Yes, and that's the thing.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning and having this conversation. I want to remind people that if they do want to access counseling, they can call the Rape Crisis Society at 627-RAPE. That's 627-7372. And you can reach out to us and we will, 7273, sorry. So 627-7273 is the number to call the Rape Crisis Society. Thanks so much, Alyssa.
Legislation sets the tone for how we treat each other as a society. It provides those boundaries and the expectations, and it also upholds the rights of all of the citizens.
Legislation is important for everyone in society as it sets rules and regulations that create an organized, safe, and fair environment in which everyone is equal.
They form the opinion that because you have a disability, that you are somehow unintelligent, stupid, ridiculously asinine, you name it. So legislation is quite important, and I hope that legislation is soon coming so that people with disabilities can be who they are. People first, disabilities after.